Hello everyone, Omni-sensei here with What If I Was Reborn in My Hero Academia with a Mangekyo Sharingan. Part 6. If you enjoy this content, please smash the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out the original story linked in the description. I hope you enjoy listening to it.
The Nomu, having fully ejected the manhole cover from its skull, focused its lidless eye on the streetlight. Its body rippled as it activated muscle augmentation and transformed arms simultaneously, then proceeded to shoot them forward. Todoroki's foot hit the pavement. Look out! Frost was already creeping up his leg to form a barrier when, whoosh! The manhole cover that had clattered to the ground beside the Nomu suddenly rocketed upward, slamming into the creature's face with devastating force. Clang! Todoroki's ice wall stopped mid-freeze. What the? The creature's head snapped back with a wet crunch. The sudden loss of focus caused the shooting tendrils to lose their rigidity, drooping and piercing into the earth against the base of the streetlight. My turn, Yuta muttered as he formed a hand seal. The manhole cover, which had bounced off the creature's skull, halted in mid-air, vibrated for a millisecond, and shot back with redoubled speed. Bang! The ground cracked as it crashed into the earth. It's that move again. Todoroki's brows furrowed, remembering Yuta using such a move during the sports festival. This time, he has actual projectiles. Did that? What just? In the helicopter, Ayaka stammered in surprise. Just then, the manhole cover was grasped before it could hit again. Yuta raised an eyebrow. The creature stood to its feet. Scree. The muscles on its left arm bulged as it cocked back. He's gonna throw it. An ice path formed on Todoroki's legs as he propelled himself out of the way. The strength of this creature was incredible. There was no way an ice barrier would hold. Better to avoid, he thought. As for Yuta, he could take care of himself. The moment Todoroki moved, the Nomu fired. The manhole cover shot through the air like a missile towards Yuta's head. The boy in question leaned to the side. The projectile whizzed past his head, drew a strange arc around him, and shot right back towards the sender with unabated force. The Nomu, still mid-throw and completely off balance, didn't even have time to shriek. A massive gash ran across the Nomu's face as the manhole cover slammed into its skull and then tore through its shoulder, embedding itself into the earth behind it. Blood, skin, and teeth flew in all directions. The creature's legs gave out, and it fell backward into the crater of its own making. The sound of the impact was heavy enough to be heard over the thrumming of the helicopter blades. Todoroki's ice path came to a halt. He looked at the fallen beast, then at the boy perched on the light. Well, Yuta leaped down from the streetlight, landing soundlessly on his feet. That's gotta hurt. Todoroki's eyelids twitched. Thank goodness support gear wasn't allowed. In the distance, the Nomu's fingers twitched, following which it turned over on one side, slowly sitting up. The grotesque features now looked even worse as blood dropped from its now bloody maw. How odd, Yuta uttered. I thought you'd have regeneration or something. Scree. The Nomu let out a high-pitched roar, claws digging into the earth seemingly in rage. Yuta raised his hand. The manhole cover shot forward from behind, slamming the Nomu in the back of the head. Bang! Everyone watching in the Shibuya crowd winced. The manhole cover flew right into Yuta's hand. He weighed the projectile, tossed it into the air once, mind drifting to the case on his back that he hadn't even touched yet. I should get the design lab to make me something like this when I get back. Finally, the Nomu pushed itself up, its jaw hanging at a crooked angle. Thud, thud. The sheer blunt force of the previous hits had cracked its exoskeleton-like skin. It didn't seem to feel the pain, but the structural damage was making its movements sluggish. You're persistent. I'll give you that. Yuta resisted the urge to crack a smile. It was kind of funny. The Nomu lunged, its hind legs shattering the pavement as it launched itself forward. Yuta's Sharingan traced its trajectory as he threw the manhole cover upward and pushed the side of his gauntlet. The case opened. At the same time, the Nomu appeared before Yuta and swung its claws. Yuta's body flickered. The earth shattered where he previously stood. The blur ended as Yuta reappeared a few meters away, sliding on the asphalt. One hand touched the metal beneath him, the other reaching into the case on his back. Locking onto its target, the Nomu clenched its arms and swung. The wind blew back Yuta's hood, but otherwise nothing happened. Standing on top of a building, Mr. Aizawa's eyes turned red behind his goggles. Yuta pulled. Instead of a plate, kunai, or shuriken, a heavy, high-tensile iron chain unspooled from the case. Chakra surged through Yuta's arm into the weapon, and it glowed with a faint silver-white light. Scale of 1 to 10. The Nomu shot forward. This is going to be a 12. He whipped the chain in response. The ground shattered as it drew a trench across the earth, moving upwards and colliding with the Nomu. Clang. The impact created knocked the Nomu's arm wide open. Before the creature could reset, Yuta spun, the chain following his movement like a living serpent, and slammed right into its chest. A third gash tore across its chest, following which the Nomu was sent flying back where it came from. Bang! The crash was deafening. Dust and debris scattered in all directions as the Nomu pierced through that building and the one after it. I've lost sight of it. Up on a building, Aizawa frowned. Yuta flicked back the chain in hand. His Sharingan never left the crash site. Is it dead? Todoroki called out, still maintaining a defensive stance. Doubt it, Yuta replied. The heat signature was obstructed by the debris. This one is resilient, more so than the last one I faced with Mr. Aizawa. Why are you with Aizawa-sensei? Why are you in Hosu for that matter? I'm interning with him? When did that happen? The manhole cover fell back. Yuta caught it with his free hand. Since this afternoon after my train was attacked by villains. Todoroki's brows furrowed. You were attacked? It's been a long day. A low rumbling sound echoed from the crash site. Honestly, I don't doubt it, Todoroki replied, his eyes fixed on the destroyed buildings. Boom! The entire structure exploded outward. Massive chunks of rubble, some the size of cars, shot toward them like missiles. Todoroki's hands slammed into the ground. Get back! A thick wall of ice erupted between them and the debris. The frozen barrier caught most of the larger pieces, but smaller fragments still scattered in all directions. Yuta's hand whipped forward. The manhole cover shot through the air, deflecting a chunk of concrete that had arced over Todoroki's wall. The metal disc rang like a gong as he smashed the rubble to pieces. Through the settling dust and the gaps in the ice wall, a silhouette emerged. The Nomu stepped out of the wreckage, its body covered in dust and debris but otherwise intact. Its vacant eyes locked onto them. By now, its body was a mess. Nevertheless, it still stood and moved as if unharmed. Bang! The creature shot forward with explosive speed. It crossed 15 meters in the time it took to blink. The manhole cover came flying back toward the Nomu's head. A perfect intercept trajectory. Suddenly, the unexpected happened. It ducked low and dodged. It dodged? Yuta's fingers twitched, redirecting the manhole cover mid-flight. The metal disc curved through the air, arcing back for another strike. The Nomu's body twisted, an unnatural, almost serpentine motion, and the second attack passed harmlessly by. Todoroki's face darkened. It's adapting to our attacks. So it seems, Yuta replied, his free hand reaching for the chain at his side. The Nomu leaped onto the side of a building, claws digging into concrete. Then it began to run up the vertical surface, defying gravity with pure muscle strength. It reached the rooftop in seconds, then launched itself across the gap to the next building, heading straight for them from above. High ground advantage, Yuta observed, his Sharingan tracking the creature's path. The chain unspooled in his hand. Chakra began to flow through the weapon, making it glow with that familiar silver-white light. The Nomu leaped from the rooftop, its trajectory aimed directly at Yuta. Yuta's arm cocked back, ready to swing, but he didn't. He kicked his Sharingan into overdrive as he timed the trajectory. Wait for it. The Nomu descended, its shadow growing larger. 5 meters. 4. 3. Its clawed hands reached out, ready to grab. Whoosh! A second manhole cover, one Yuta had touched earlier before releasing the chain, suddenly shot forward from behind him. Clang! It slammed into the Nomu's face, yet again snapping its head back. The creature's trajectory was thrown off, its body spinning awkwardly in midair, right into Yuta's optimal strike zone. Now! Now! The chain whipped forward with blurring speed. Crack! Chakra-infused metal struck the disoriented Nomu directly across the face. The force was immense. Even while holding back to not accidentally kill the creature, Yuta felt the impact reverberate up his arm. Blood sprayed from the creature's shattered features as it was launched skyward like a missile, straight toward the news helicopter. Shit! Yuta's body flickered and vanished. In the helicopter, Ayaka Fujimoto's scream cut through the cockpit. Pull up! Pull up! The pilot yanked the controls, but the helicopter's momentum was too slow. The Nomu was too fast. Just when they were going to collide, Yuta appeared out of thin air several paces behind the ascending Nomu, his body hanging in space for one impossible moment. The chain shot forward, wrapping around the creature's torso. The metal links constricted like a serpent, binding tighter with each rotation. There was no way he was going to end this night with collateral damage added to his list of feats. The Nomu roared, or tried to, its jaw hanging at a broken angle as it continued rocketing toward the helicopter. 3 meters from impact. 2 meters. Yuta's eyes narrowed as he pulled at thin air. The chain reacted instantly to his quirk. The metal links tightened and yanked, countering the Nomu's upward momentum with equal and opposite force. The creature's ascent halted as if an invisible hand had grabbed it from above. Then, defying every law of motion, it was dragged backward and down, pulled by the chakra-infused chain like gravity itself had reversed. The helicopter's skids passed overhead with less than a meter to spare. Ayaka collapsed against her seat, hyperventilating. Did we? Look! The cameraman pointed down. Yuta and the bound Nomu, plummeting toward the street below. The Nomu thrashed against its restraints, muscles bulging as muscle augmentation activated at maximum capacity. Or tried to. Unfortunately, it was still being stared at by a man with red eyes. Nevertheless, the chain began to strain, and links started to separate under its raw strength. Yuta released the chain entirely. Chakra exploded across his body as he gathered and compressed it all in his fists. More than half of what he had left. Phantom. He cocked his hand back. For a moment, visible even to the naked eye, a white-hot corona condensed around his right fist, until both the human and the transformed human fell in parallel to each other, barely a meter off the ground. Yuta threw the punch straight at the Nomu's abdomen without holding back. Flash! The punch connected. Boom! The Nomu was slammed into the earth. The impact cratered the asphalt, sending cracks spiderwebbing outward for 10 meters in every direction. Dust exploded into the air. Car alarms wailed. Windows that had somehow survived the earlier chaos finally gave up and shattered. For 5 seconds, there was only the sound of debris settling. Then the dust began to clear. Yuta stood in the center of the crater, one knee on the ground, his fist still buried in the Nomu's chest. The creature lay motionless beneath him, its body twisted at unnatural angles. Slowly, Yuta pulled his fist back and stood. His right arm was smoking. The right sleeve was practically non-existent, charred away by the sheer friction of the chakra discharge. That went better than I thought it would. Behind him, the silence was absolute. Even the helicopter seemed to hover in a stunned hush. Hey! Yuta turned to see Todoroki at the edge of the crater, his mismatched eyes wide as he looked at the pulverized concrete and the creature that hadn't even twitched since impact. What the hell was that? Todoroki asked. An ultimate move in the making. That was just raw force? More like an energy-enhanced physical attack, Yuta replied, his voice raspy. He flexed his fingers, or tried to. There were certainly a few things broken with the aftershock of the Phantom Flash, which was simply high amounts of chakra compression and release. A spur-of-the-moment idea which was just as much of a gamble as it sounded. The physical body is still too weak to handle the aftershock, even if I timed the hit right. He channeled chakra into his arm. His right hand healed perfectly in 10 seconds. Then he glanced down at the crater. Well, you see the result. In the helicopter, Ayaka Fujimoto stared at the scene below, her microphone forgotten. Across Japan, millions of people were staring at the same image. A teenager in a hoodie, standing over a fallen monster. He did it. Finally, Ayaka Fujimoto finally found her voice, then composed herself, realizing they were still live. This is incredible, ladies and gentlemen. The threat has been neutralized. She froze, realizing they had no idea who this newcomer was or what to call him. From his height and features, he looked like a student, most likely still in hero school. However, that wouldn't do. The masked Phantom Hero has won the battle. Ultimately, she went through everything she had seen in the fight and picked what she felt was suitable. Elsewhere, Tamura Shigaraki lowered the binoculars slowly, his visible eye twitching as he watched the masked figure stand over his fallen Nomu. Nu. His hand moved to his neck, scratching furiously. The skin was already raw and bleeding from earlier frustration, but he clawed at it anyway. This wasn't supposed to. Who even is that? The binoculars in his left hand began to crumble, flaking away into ash and dust particles that scattered in the wind. He didn't even notice, body trembling with rage. It's just a brat against a Nomu. How in hell did this? He scratched harder. His breathing grew ragged. Just then, a wave of mist materialized beside him on the water tower to form a figure he knew all too well. Tamura. Kurojairi? What's going on with the other Nomu? They're done. The other Nomu rampaging across the city have been dealt with. I came to inform you. What? Tamura's scratching deepened. 6 Nomu. 6. And you're telling me they're all... Master's gonna... Do not fret, Tamura Shigaraki. Kurojairi's calm voice cut through his spiraling thoughts. Tamura spun toward him, hands still clawing at his neck. What else is there to it? The Nomu's been beaten, you idiot. My perfect plan failed. Not entirely, Kurojairi interrupted, his eyes narrowing with something that might have been satisfaction. But we still have Endeavor. Tamura's scratching slowed. What? The number 2 hero is currently engaged with our final unit. Unlike these unexpected variables, Kurojairi gestured toward where Yuta stood in the distance. Endeavor is exactly where we predicted he would be. A portal swirled open beside them, showing a view of Sector 4. Through it, they could see flames and destruction. Tamura's scratching stopped. Fine. Let's make sure this isn't a total waste. Back at the crater, Yuta was in the process of securing the unconscious Nomu with the remains of his chain when a figure descended from the rooftop above, landing with practiced ease despite his injuries. Not bad, Akutami. Aizawa straightened from his crouch, his capture scarf settling around his shoulders. His eyes were bloodshot from maintaining erasure. There was a fresh bruise forming along his jaw, but his expression held something that might have been approval. Quick thinking with the aerial intercept. Minimal collateral damage. No civilian casualties. Things would be playing over very differently if there had been. It was a fleeting thought as Aizawa glanced at the crater. Though your definition of minimal needs work. Sensei, Yuta nodded. The other 2? Secured. Response teams have them contained. Just then, Aizawa's gaze turned to the side. The sound of rapid footsteps approached. Mr. Aizawa. Akutami? A familiar figure in white armor came to a skidding halt at the scene. Tenya Ida's eyes were wide behind his glasses, taking in the crater, the bound Nomu, and the two familiar faces standing in the aftermath of destruction. What are you doing here? His gaze darted around frantically. And where's my brother? Long story, Ida. Yuta waved his hand. We've had a busy commute. Ida. Everyone turned as Todoroki emerged from a partially collapsed building, supporting a limping Ingenium. Behind them, two young children clung to each other, eyes wide but unharmed. Tensei. Tenya rushed forward, his engines propelling him to his brother's side in an instant. I'm fine, Tenya. He had one hand pressed against his abdomen where the Nomu's tendril had pierced him, but the bleeding had stopped. More concerned about these two, he gestured to the children. Then his gaze shifted to Yuta, standing in the crater with his destroyed sleeve and smoking fist. You must, Yuta. I saw what you did. Ingenium's voice carried genuine respect. That was exceptional work for a student. Yuta shifted uncomfortably under the praise. Thank you. And you, Todoroki. Ingenium nodded toward the ice user. Your barriers saved my life and put these kids out of harm's way. Thank you. I was just doing what a hero should. Tensei nodded and looked up. The skies of the city were still purple. The other districts, they're under attack as well. We need to send reinforce. Already handled. Aizawa cut him off. Everyone stared at him. What? Tenya blinked. Akutami and I dealt with 3 Nomu before arriving here. 1 attacked our train. 2 more were en route to other districts. They're secured and waiting to be transported. By now, the heroes and authorities should be focusing on putting out the fires. Silence followed. Ingenium was stunned. 3? You took down 3 of these things. 4 actually, Yuta corrected, gesturing to the creature bound at his feet. But who's counting? Aizawa's gaze shifted to Todoroki. Since you're here without your supervisor, I assume Endeavor is in the city as well. Where is he? Todoroki's expression darkened. Sector 4. He ordered us to evacuate while he handled the threats there. There were 3 of these things attacking him when we left. This one was one of... A distant explosion interrupted him. In Sector 4, the raging inferno released finally died down. But the obsidian Nomu's body hit the ground, its charred form still smoking from the concentrated hellfire that had finally overwhelmed it. Endeavor stood over the corpse, breathing heavily. Compared to the red one, this creature was significantly harder to deal with. Why? Due to a third quirk, heat resistance. This was the conclusion Endeavor had come up with. It was a thing to absorb flames, but it was another to take no damage when doing so. More tests had confirmed that this creature had a great degree of resistance to high temperatures. He had refrained from using Prominence Burn to avoid widespread damage. Hence, it had taken a significant expenditure to finally overwhelm it. His costume was torn in several places, and he could feel his body overheating, but ultimately it didn't matter. He was standing. The Nomu wasn't. 2 of them, he thought, his flames dimming slightly as he surveyed the destruction around him. And that's all they could manage. The crimson lay in pieces 50 meters back. The obsidian was now a smoking crater. And the third, his eyes narrowed. The third had escaped toward the evacuation route. But if the sudden silence from that direction meant anything, it had either been stopped or driven off. I have to check on Shoto and the others. They should be clear by now. He turned to leave, flames already gathering at his feet for a propulsive leap when space itself rippled in front of him. A portal of swirling purple mist materialized out of nowhere, growing from a pinpoint to a man-sized gateway in less than a second. Endeavor froze, his flames returning to maximum intensity. You! Greetings, Endeavor. The mist villain's yellow eyes gleamed from the darkness. I hope the evening's entertainment has been to your satisfaction. Entertainment? Endeavor's voice was low and dangerous. You call attacking civilians entertainment? A difference in perspective, perhaps. Kurogiri's tone remained infuriatingly polite. Though I must commend you on your performance tonight. We didn't think you would be so difficult to defeat, even if these creatures were significantly weaker than the one that fought All Might. Endeavor didn't let him finish. Jet burn. A concentrated blast of flames erupted from his palm, aimed directly at the portal's center. The fire shot forward and vanished into the warp gate, redirected to some unknown location. Predictable, Kurogiri observed. Behind Endeavor, space warped again. A second portal opened at his back, soundless and sudden. A blade thrusted out the moment it did, aiming directly for Endeavor's head. The number 2 hero's instincts saved him. He twisted, flames erupting from his side in a defensive burst. The blade's edge caught him anyway, carving a shallow cut across his cheek before retreating back into the mist. Endeavor's hand shot up, touching the wound. His fingers came away red. First blood. Enraged, he fired a blast at Kurogiri, only for the warp gate to disappear before the attack could land. Coward! Endeavor roared, eyes darting to find the warp gate. Face me directly. Such anger! A raspy voice called out from somewhere in the darkness. Such pride. Is this the flame that burns beneath the number 2? How disappointing. Endeavor's eyes darted across the destroyed street, searching for the source. Another portal opened, this time to his left. He spun, unleashing another jet burn. The attack passed harmlessly through empty space as the portal snapped shut. Stop hiding behind your tricks. Endeavor's voice echoed across Sector 4. If you want to fight me, then... His body suddenly went stiff. Not completely. He could still breathe, still move his eyes, but his major muscle groups had locked up, refusing to respond to his commands. What? It seems our ploy has worked. Kurogiri's voice fell into his ears. A few meters away from Endeavor, a portal swirled open, revealing a person. The flame hero was all too familiar. Stain stepped through, his tattered red wrappings stained with older blood. That same fanatical gleam burned in his eyes. The one Endeavor had seen in the alley before this madman had escaped through a warp gate. You! Endeavor forced the word through clenched teeth, every syllable a battle against the paralysis. Do not bother with the glare. The man stepped forward, raising his blade. It will do you no good. Your fate is sealed. Damn it. How did he? His thoughts paused as it dawned on him. The cut on my cheek. Endeavor realized with growing dread. It had been theorized what kind of quirk the hero killer had. The man had slain multiple heroes and wounded even more. However, based on his fighting style, it couldn't be too strong. Endeavor had prepared for this. All he had to do was prevent him from getting close. Never had he expected things to go like this. Coward, this is all you can resort to? Using tricks. Spare me the babble, Endeavor. You've become helpless, like all false heroes when stripped of their power. False? The words enraged him to no end. He strained, his willpower screaming at his muscles to ignite, to move, to do anything. But his body was a statue of meat and bone. I'll kill you. You are a man of immense power, and yet you are the furthest thing from a hero. I'd advise you to pick your last words very carefully. Kurogiri's yellow eyes flickered within the mist a few meters away. Hero killer, I must urge you to be brief. Our operation across the city has been resolved. We have barely minutes before local pros, amongst others, converge on this location. I know, but some things cannot be rushed. To cull the number 2, it is a duty that requires a certain weight. He raised the blade high over his head. The tip pointed directly at Endeavor's exposed throat. Damn it! If the paralysis would... No last words. Stain asked, katana overhead. No plea for mercy? No promise to change. Go to hell, Endeavor managed to growl. The hero killer nodded. So long, Endeavor. May your death bring about a better world. The blade began its descent toward the paralyzed hero's neck. Squelch. The sound was completely unexpected. Stain's entire body jerked. His eyes widened, pupils contracting to pinpoints. The katana stopped mid-swing. Hirojiri's mist rippled violently. What? Stain looked down slowly, as if unable to believe what his body was telling him. A steel rod, thick, industrial, the kind used in construction reinforcement, had pierced clean through his lower abdomen from behind. The tip protruded from his stomach, dark with blood. More blood was already soaking into his tattered red wrappings. Well. A voice cut through the silence. Stain's head jerked to the side. Every movement sent fresh waves of agony through his core, but the pain was distant. Shock was a powerful anesthetic. Standing directly behind him was a figure that seemed to have materialized from nowhere. White hair catching the firelight, a green tactical jacket over dark combat gear, and a mask covering the lower half of his face. Only his eyes were visible. The figure still held the other end of the steel rod, his grip steady despite the blood now staining the metal. He tilted his head slightly, and despite the mask, there was an unmistakable quality of dark satisfaction in his voice. That was easier than the last time. Stain's katana slipped from nerveless fingers, clattering against the asphalt. You! The hero killer's voice was barely a whisper, blood beginning to bubble at the corners of his mouth. You! Me! The masked figure confirmed, releasing the rod and taking a step back. Surprise! Hirojiri's yellow eyes blazed with fury and shock. Impossible! We were watching for interference. How did you? The white-haired figure didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked past Stain's wavering form to meet Endeavor's paralyzed gaze. The man carried equal shock and confusion. Sorry to interrupt your dramatic moment, the masked figure said, his attention shifting back to Stain. But I'm on a tight timer, so I couldn't wait for you to kill him. Apologies. Stain tried to turn, tried to face his attacker properly, but his body was failing. The steel rod had done catastrophic damage. It hadn't pierced through any organs or vital blood vessels. It had, however, destroyed one thing, his lower spine. Hirojiri's mist rippled with barely contained fury as he assessed the catastrophic failure unfolding before him. Unacceptable. It would be a lie to say that this had been included in their calculations. The plan hadn't gone the way they initially concluded, but all was well. Or it would have been if not for this sudden development. The white-haired vigilante stood inches away from Stain and Endeavor's fallen bodies. Both were powerless to resist the ideal scenario. However, taking them away would prove challenging. To retreat meant this operation was a failure, and with Endeavor lying helpless meters away, Hirojiri was unwilling to simply retreat so easily. The entire operation, every Nomu deployed, every resource expended, all for this moment. Hirojiri's yellow eyes fixed on the number 2 hero's frozen form. If Endeavor dies here, tonight becomes a victory. The symbol of peace's pillar crumbles. Society's faith wavers. Master's plans advance. Stain was expendable, always had been. A useful tool with a conveniently destructive ideology. But Endeavor, your death would shake the foundations of hero society itself. Hirojiri's mist began to expand, tendrils of purple-black void aiming to reach toward the paralyzed flame hero. Coming this far and just leaving was impossible. Hence, Hirojiri planned to use his warp gate for a quirk extraction. He didn't have to target them individually. Just enveloping them with fog would do. Though it came with a certain risk of a counter should the vigilante dodge it. However, doing so would allow him to grab both bodies and make a quick getaway. Once taken, Endeavor would be killed before Stain's paralysis wore off. 2 seconds. That's all he needed. However, The villain had barely begun when the vigilante formed a hand seal and slammed the earth. He noticed. The earth erupted. Stone and concrete surged upward like a tidal wave, reforming itself with impressive speed. A massive wall of compacted earth rose between Kurogiri's expanding mist and Endeavor's prone body, cutting off the warp gate's path completely. What? Kurogiri's composed demeanor fractured.
Terrain manipulation.
But the reports said nothing about. The wall was thick and appeared suddenly, obstructing his vision. He couldn't continue his attack even if he wanted to at this point. Damn it! Thrum. The sound fell into his ears. Kurogiri's gaze snapped upward. A helicopter. News media, judging by the camera equipment visible even from this distance, circled overhead. A powerful spotlight swept across the ruins, catching the silver hair of the masked man and the bloody form of the hero killer. Look! Ayaka Fujimoto's voice echoed from the sky, amplified by a loudspeaker. The battle in Sector 4. There's a newcomer, and the hero killer. He's down. Kurogiri looked up at the light, then at the distant sirens growing louder with every passing second. The tactical window had closed. It seems the stage has been compromised. He needed to extract Endeavor in a short time frame. A minute, maybe less, all while guarding against the vigilante. The probability of success was slim. Forgive me, hero killer, Kurogiri said, regardless of whether Stain could hear him behind the wall. It seems our partnership regretfully ends here. Those were his last words before vanishing. The street returned to an eerie silence. Above them, the helicopter's camera captured everything. The white-haired vigilante stood motionless for a moment, finally relaxing upon realizing the enemy was truly gone. Then his gaze shifted to Endeavor, who was trying desperately to force his body to respond. You! Endeavor's voice was strained. You must be the vigilante Ingenium mentioned. Hello, Endeavor. The reply was bland, and the features were hidden behind the mask. Those bastards! Stain roared beside them, drawing their attention. His gaze turned to the vigilante, gleaming with a similar hatred and intent to kill. You! Blood dripped from the hero killer's mouth with each word. Who the hell are you? The masked figure's head tilted slightly, as if considering the question, then answered in a casual tone, My surname is Hataki. He paused, letting the name hang in the air. You can call me White Fang. Stain's eyes narrowed. I haven't heard of that name. Tell me, what did I ever do to you for this? The masked man didn't reply but rather turned and walked away. Answer me, Stain yelled. If you're gonna do it, you might as well finish the job. Why let me live? The figure stopped. There are a lot of reasons, actually, but if I had to pick, he turned his head. It would be because even killing you wouldn't be satisfying enough. The words made Endeavor frown. The figure shrugged. So enjoy your capture, Stain. I'm certain the authorities will treat you with all the mercy you showed your victims. And where exactly do you think you're going? Huh. The white-haired vigilante paused. He turned to see Endeavor glaring at him with barely concealed fury. Kakashi blinked. That's an idiotic question, the vigilante muttered. Endeavor's jaw tightened. You're playing a dangerous game, masked man. Do not think your assistance grants you immunity. Once this paralysis fades, I'll be the one asking the questions. It was official. Endeavor's ego far surpassed his sense of self-preservation. For a second, he deeply regretted saving this arrogant bastard. It's a mystery how this guy became the number 2. Clap. He formed a seal with both hands, then exploded into a cloud of white smoke. By the time the thick haze cleared, the street was empty. Elsewhere, Kurogiri's portal manifested on the metal platform with a swirl. Tamura Shigaraki sat on the tower's edge, legs dangling over the drop, his back to the portal as he scratched his neck. For several seconds, neither spoke, The purple haze over Hosu was beginning to fade. Fire crews were getting the blazes under control. The chaos was ending. I'll take it. The plan failed. Shigaraki's voice was flat. Kurojairi stood silent for a long moment. The number 2 survives. The hero killer has been captured. He was neutralized by a third party. The same individual who interfered in the alleyway weeks ago. There was no response. Just the sound of Shigaraki's scratching growing louder. Tamura. It was one guy. One. With everything we had, yet he's still alive. Shigaraki stood to his feet. We underestimated him, Kurojairi said in an attempt to calm him down. He is the number 2 hero after all. Oh sure. As if that's going to somehow erase our loses and this failure of a night. First at USJ, now this. Every time we make a move, every time we try to show the world that heroes are frauds, something goes wrong. All Might survives. Endeavor survives. And we look like idiots. Kurojairi remained silent, knowing from experience that Tamura needed to vent. 6 Nomu, Kurojairi. Gone. And what do we have to show for it? Stains captured. Endeavor's alive. And now there's footage of some vigilante playing hero broadcast to the entire nation. His scratching slowed. Master is going to be so disappointed. Perhaps not entirely, Kurojairi offered. While Endeavor survived, we've demonstrated that even the number 2 can be cornered. Paralyzed. Helpless. The image of him frozen and vulnerable will spread. And Stain's capture is worthless. Shigaraki's tone was dismissive. It can be attributed to our league. It doesn't matter. That bastard was always expendable. He turned away from the city, his shoulders slumping slightly. Let's go home, Kurojairi. I need to figure out how to explain this disaster to Master. Portal swirled open behind them. And that white-haired vigilante. Shigaraki's voice dropped to something dangerous. Find out everything about him. Name, quirk, location, everything. Next time, I'm going to turn him to dust personally. Of course, Tamura. They stepped through the portal together. When it closed, the water tower was empty, and the city returned to calm, save for the sound of distant sirens and the fading glow of fire on the horizon. Hosu City had survived its darkest night. For the citizens, the scars would remain for a long, long time. By the next day, however, the rest of Japan would be focusing on a different aspect of what happened the previous night. 2 individuals in particular would be pushed to the very forefront of the media storm set to follow.
Tokyo, Shibuya Crossing, 7:07 a.m.
Good morning, Japan. I'm Nakamura Kenji, and we begin with continuing coverage of what's being called the most impactful night in Hero Society since the dawn of All Might's career. The massive LED screens that normally displayed advertisements had been commandeered by every news network in Japan. Commuters stopped mid-stride, their morning coffees forgotten as they stared upward. Unprecedented attack on Hosu City last night has left the nation in shock. The footage played on loop. 5 different angles, all showing the same apocalyptic scene. Flames painting the sky purple-orange, buildings reduced to rubble, and creatures that looked like they'd crawled out of nightmares tearing through the streets. So this really happened. Yeah, I honestly couldn't sleep easy last night. What exactly are those things? Mutants? Monsters are more like it. The villains are getting more brazen with each appearance. First UA, now this. It's unsettling come to think of it. I heard even Endeavor was in trouble. You're kidding, right? The conversation in the middle of Shibuya was mirrored across every train station and office lobby in the country. The air was thick with a collective sense of vulnerability that hadn't been felt in years. No, I'm serious, the man replied, pointing up at the screen. Look at the Sector 4 feed. That's Endeavor, all right. The number 2 hero. He's flat on his back. They're saying he was paralyzed. If the guy right behind All Might can be taken down like that, what hope do the rest of us have? Suddenly, the news anchor's voice cut through the ambient noise of the crossing. rising in pitch as a new reel of high-definition footage began to play. Last night, Hosu City became a battlefield when the terrorist organization known as the League of Villains launched a coordinated attack using multiple creatures. Creatures we now know are called Nomu, who bear a striking resemblance to the one that attacked UA High School more than a month ago. The screen split, showing 6 different Nomu across various districts of Hosu. 6 of them were deployed simultaneously across the city. The immediate casualties include dozens of injured civilians with hundreds more displaced from their homes and several incapacitated pro-heroes, including the number 67 ranked Ingenium. The economic damage is estimated in the millions, but the death toll, miraculously, stands at 0. The screen shifted to a blurry image of Tensei Ida being carried out, his costume tattered. However, in a night of terror, a new light has emerged. In a stunning display of heroism that defies belief, multiple of these mutant villains were neutralized. This is due in a large part to the efforts of professional heroes who responded to the crisis to prevent what should have been an even greater tragedy, as well as several unexpected participants. While authorities are still compiling official reports, we can confirm the capture of the notorious hero killer, Stain, responsible for the deaths of 17 pro-heroes and the permanent incapacitation of 22 others. Another split screen. Stain, bleeding profusely but still snarling, being dragged away by paramedics and police. But perhaps the most shocking development comes from the direct eyewitness accounts and the incredible live footage captured by Hosu City's helicopter team. The Nomu that brought down Ingenium, a creature of incredible strength, was decisively defeated by Tuyu, a high school student currently identified as Kenji paused for dramatic effect, leaning into the microphone. Todoroki Shoto, son of the Flame Hero Endeavor, as well as Akutami Yuta, the second-place finisher at the recent sports festival. Both engaged the mutant villain in combat, displaying an unprecedented level of combat prowess in what should be their first debut as hero interns. Everyone's gazes turned to the screen displaying a shaky but clear footage of the street during the Nomu attack. No way, it really is a kid. The efficiency is what is being discussed by experts this morning. Kenji Nakamura's voice narrated over the clip of Yuta slamming the Nomu into the crater. While the official hero name for these students have not been released, the online populace has already dubbed them. The footage slowed. Frame by frame, analysts circled the moment of impact, the chain tightening, the sudden halt midair, the single decisive strike that followed. We're joined now by Quirk analyst Yamamoto Hiroshi. Yamamoto-san, you've reviewed the footage extensively. What can you tell us from your perspective? Kenji turned to a rather aged man with a wrinkled face, bald head, and a long knitted beard. Thank you, Kenji. I would like everyone to take a very good look at this clip one more time. The footage played again. As we can see, this student engaged the creature after Ingenium was incapacitated, intercepting it mid-air to prevent civilian casualties before delivering the final blow. The clip slowed, the chain snapping taut, the Nomu dragged down. The impact. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the crater bloomed across the screen. For context, he resumed once it ended. This particular mutant had already overpowered Ingenium and hence can be assessed as an A-rank threat with its multiple quirks. Its defeat would have required coordinated intervention from several veteran heroes under normal circumstances. The screen changed. Side-by-side images appeared. On the left, Ingenium, a veteran pro, injured, carried from the battlefield. On the right, Akutami Yuta, a student, standing upright in the aftermath with no visible injuries whatsoever. The contrast was impossible to ignore. So what does this mean? Kenji asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. My opinion is divided, Yamamoto uttered. This young man, I have followed his performance since his appearance at the UA Sports Festival. Normally, I would hail it as a miracle. However, I think it is relevant to raise serious concerns about the implications of unlicensed students displaying power on this level. This isn't mentioning his brutal fighting style. However, It seems even more disturbing that a child was needed to step in for a situation a licensed pro hero couldn't handle on his own in the first place. Hero Network News. Special report, 8 a.m. The split screen showed 2 anchors, one in Tokyo and one in Osaka. But the mystery deepens, the Tokyo anchor said, because this young hero wasn't the only unexpected player in last night's crisis. New footage appeared. Sector 4. The aftermath of Endeavor's battle with the Nomu. Number 2 hero, Japan's second strongest, lying motionless on the ground. Not injured, not unconscious. This footage, which has now gone viral with over 50 million views, shows Endeavor apparently unable to move. Standing over him, an unidentified vigilante. Sources close to the investigation suggest that Endeavor was affected by Stain's quirk, a paralysis ability activated through unclarified means. However, the number 2 hero's office has refused to comment on this incident. Cut to footage of Endeavor's agency. Reporters swarming. A spokesperson reading from a prepared statement. Endeavor-san is recovering from the night's events and will make a statement when appropriate. No further questions. The door closed. The reporters erupted. Endeavor-san, is it true you were paralyzed? Did the vigilante save your life? Were you defeated by the hero killer? No response. Back to the studio. What we do know, the Osaka anchor continued, is that the hero killer Stain, wanted for the murder and injuries of 39 pro heroes, has been captured. But his condition raises questions. Fuji News Network. 8:30 a.m. In a statement released just minutes ago, the Hosu Police Commissioner confirmed that Yuta Akatami, alongside the underground hero Eraserhead, neutralized a total of 5 high-level threats. However, the commissioner remained silent when asked about the unidentified white-haired individual seen near Endeavor or why the number 2 hero was found in such a state.
Internet forum. HeroNet Yepe.
Thread. The Ghost of Hosu. User. Crimson Riot Fan. Can we talk about the fact that a 15-year-old just did what the 68th ranked Ingenium couldn't? Who is teaching this kid? User. Night Understager. At Crimson Riot Fan, I saw this kid during the sports festival. He didn't have projectiles back then. User. Salt Underserting. Never had I ever imagined someone could do such damage with a manhole cover of all things. User at Meme Quirk Daily. Y'all are missing the obvious question. Why does he have a manhole cover as a weapon? Like, sir, the hardware store was right there. User at Tactical Analysis. Honestly, I felt kinda bad for the mutant. User. All Might Stan. Seriously, what are they feeding kids these days? User Endeavor Lover. This kid doesn't look like a pro. His fighting style looks more like a vigilante. User All Might Stan. Yeah, right. That means you haven't seen Brawler's pro agency. Everyone there fights like street thugs. User at Red Eye Speculation. What is his quirk though? You guys got any ideas? User. A Tactical Analysis. Finally, somebody noticed this. This kid showed more than one quirk, didn't he? User. All Might Stan. Who cares? User. XOXOXO. +1. User. Endeavor Lover. +2. User. Ghost. +18. User. All Might Stan. I'm more interested in his hero name. User at Meme Quirk Daily. I know, right? Black Phantom is a sick name. The way he just walked away after pulverizing that monster? Cold. That's the kind of hero we need. User at Pro Hero Gossip. Update. Source at Hosu PD confirms NO match in hero registry for this individual's description or abilities. Repeat. Not a registered hero. User at Legal Quirks. Which means this was illegal vigilante activity. Doesn't matter if he saved lives. Hero work without a license is a crime. Full stop. User at Popular Opinion. Oh. Shut up with that legal BS. He saved 200 plus people, including a news crew. The letter of the law can kiss my. User at Mod Team. Thread locked due to excessive rule violations. Throughout Japan, Numerous screens replayed the manhole cover sequence, followed by the iron chain takedown. The raw, unfiltered footage had already gone viral. Two things were the talk of every man, woman, and hero. Akutami Yuta, a teenager, fought and defeated a monster that pro heroes struggled against, using an unconventional style that has left experts baffled. His identity has been confirmed by UA High School and the police, though they are refusing further comments at this time, citing an ongoing investigation. The broadcast then shifted to the more controversial footage. The final fight in Sector 4, Endeavor, still rigid and powerless, lying near the bleeding hero killer, and a third, unidentified figure, the White Fang. In an even more perplexing development, the number 2 pro hero, Endeavor, was discovered incapacitated alongside the captured hero killer. Live footage shows Endeavor unmoving and seemingly paralyzed, with an unknown, masked vigilante, now dubbed after official reports as White Fang, being the last person seen with him before vanishing in a puff of smoke. Endeavor himself has refused to comment on his condition or the circumstances of his rescue, leading to widespread speculation about how the powerful flame hero came to be in such a vulnerable state. The Hosu City Commissioner of Police has issued a statement confirming the League of Villains' involvement and the capture of Stain, but has otherwise maintained a tight lid on details, promising a full press conference later today. This unprecedented silence from pro-hero agencies and the police force only fuels the public's intense curiosity. Internet forums and social media, hashtags trending nation, hashtag Hosu incident, hashtag manhole hero, hashtag Black Phantom, hashtag White Fang, hashtag Endeavor Mystery. Pro Hero Watch at Pro Watch. The official statement confirms Akutami Yuta, a UA student, took down 4 of these creatures. This raises serious questions about hero deployment protocol and why students were on the front lines. Where were the pros? Vigilante justice at true justice. While heroes fell, a true hero rose. Akutami Yuta, you're the real deal. Forget those useless pros. Hashtag manhole hero, hashtag my hero vigilante. Endeavor underscoring. NG best boy. They're slandering Endeavor. He probably took down all the other mutant villains himself. That White Fang probably paralyzed him just to claim credit. Don't trust vigilantes. UA Defender at Class 1 a lover. Akutami's costume. The black hoodie and the tactical mask. So cool. At STIN report, on-site images show Stain was run through with an industrial rod. Contact says he's permanently paralyzed from the waist down. Was this Endeavor's doing or the vigilantes? Hashtag conspiracy theory at HeroX. The HPSC has refused comment. The Hosu Police Commissioner has refused comment. Even the heroes present at the scene have been instructed not to speak to media. What are they hiding? Twitter/X. Trending worldwide. 8:30 a.m. Hashtag Hosu Crisis. 15.4 m tweets. Hashtag Manhole Kid. 10.1 m tweets. Hashtag Black Phantom. 8.7 m tweets. Hashtag White Fang. 6.2 m tweets. Hashtag Endeavor Paralyzed. 12.1 m tweets. Hashtag Who is Phantom. 4.8 m tweets. Hashtag Ingenium Defeated. 3.3 m tweets. Hashtag Vigilante Justice _1.2 m tweets. At Breaking Hero News. Confirmed. The hero who defeated the Hosu Nomu has been identified as Yuta Akutami, second place finalist in UA High School Sports Festival. Full press conference at 10 a.m. Image. Side by side of Sports Festival Yuta and masked Hosu fighter.
47k retweets pipe 156k likes.
At Hero Society Watch. So let me get this straight. Student defeats villains that injured pro hero. Took down 4 total that night. And I'm just figuring this out now? Hashtag Hosu Crisis.
31k retweets pipe 102k likes.
At All Might Superfan. Yuta Akutami 15. Second place Sports Festival. Soloed a Nomu. Saved 200 plus civilians. created magnitude 2.1 earthquake with punch, and people still question UA's education quality?
19 karet víc pipe 71k likes.
At Endev Haters Club, Endeavor got bodied by Stain, got saved by a vigilante, and is now refusing to comment. The number 2 hero is a fraud. Confirmed. Image. Endeavor paralyzed on ground.
8 karet víc pipe 34k likes pipe 12k quote tweets arguing.
At Meme Quirk Daily, The Duality of Man. Image 1. Yuta's Polite Sports Festival interview. Image 2. Yuta standing in crater with smoking fist. Caption. Before coffee versus after coffee.
41 karet víc pipe 127k likes.
At Hosa Resident _89. This boy saved my children. I owe him more than I know. What he did was heroic. Period. I don't care about legality. Hashtag thank you Phantom.
17 karet víc pipe 63 likes.
Generation hero. Get the controversy. We just watched a 15 to 16-year-old student fight like a seasoned pro.
No hesitation.
No fear. Just pure execution. The next generation is going to be insane. Hashtag Yuta Akutami, hashtag Black Phantom.
9 karet víc pipe 38k likes.
At Concerned Citizen _74. Am I the only one disturbed by this? A child was put in mortal danger. What if he died? Why was a student fighting? Hashtag Hosu Crisis.
21 karet víc pipe 7 3 likes pipe 15k replies, mostly arguing.
At Media Watchdog, the Endeavor silence is deafening. Number 2 hero gets paralyzed, gets saved by a vigilante, and won't talk about it? What is the HPSC hiding? What deal was made? Hashtag Transparency Now, hashtag Endeavor Paralyzed.
7 karet víc pipe 23 likes.
At Hero Naming, poll. There's no official hero name, so what should we call the Hosu hero? Black Phantom, 43%. Scarlet Eye, 9%. Ghost, 27%. Phantom Flash, 12%. Chain Master, 9%. Vote below. Hashtag Yuta Akutami, hashtag hero name. 11k votes. At Midnight Simp, it's confirmed. Yuta Akutami's actual hero name is Madara. Source, 800 retweets, 96 likes, 444 replies. At No to Brutality. Everyone's celebrating, but the kid beat up a living being to such extents. Does no one else see the cruelty? The kid was smirking throughout. Something's wrong with him, I tell you. 891 retweets 3.
2k likes pipe 19k replies.
At Phantom Fan Club, we made a fan club. It has 50k members already. It's been 3 hours. Welcome to the Phantom phenomenon. Hashtag Black Phantom, hashtag Yuta Akutami. Link to Discord.
7 karet víc pipe 34k likes.
TV Asahi Morning Talk Show, 9 a.m. 3 hosts sat around a curved desk, the Hosu footage playing on loop behind them. I think we need to address the elephant in the room, the center host said. A 16-year-old student performed better than most pro heroes last night. Better than Ingenium, the left host added, who's ranked 67th. A top 100 hero got injured by that creature. This kid, he gestured at the screen, defeated it in under 10 minutes, which raises serious questions about our hero education system. The right host interjected. If a first-year student can do this, what does that say about our pros? Or, the center host countered, it speaks to UA's exceptional training standards. Remember, this is the same school that produced All Might. But at what cost? The left host leaned forward. Should we be putting children in these situations? That creature could have killed him. He's training to be a hero, the right host argued. When exactly should he face real danger? At graduation? When he's unprepared? The debate continued, each host representing a different faction of public opinion. Behind them, the footage played on loop. The manhole cover ricochets impossibly. the chain pulling a monster from the sky, the crater punch that registered on seismic sensors. HOSU General Hospital, patient room. The room was small, sterile, and filled with tension. Chief of Police Force, Kenji Tsurigami, sat across from Aizawa, who occupied a chair near the window, his right arm secured in a reinforced sling and bandages visible beneath his hero costume. Between them sat a laptop displaying the same looping footage that had paralyzed the nation's attention all morning. I don't care if it was legal, Kenji began, his voice tight with frustration. I don't care if the kid had written permission from All Might himself. Do you understand what this looks like? He gestured at the screen. Pros paralyzed. Students step up. Where were the heroes? Teenager outperforms top 100 pro. My precinct is being flooded with complaints, hate mail, and demands for accountability. People are asking why they're paying taxes to support hero agencies when a 16-year-old and a vigilante ghost did more in one night than our entire response network. Aizawa's expression didn't change. The teenager was there because your entire response network was overwhelmed within the first 15 minutes of the attack. Would you have preferred I leave him on the train while civilians died? Or perhaps you'd like to explain to the families of those helicopter crew members why I should have let them fall out of the sky for the sake of optics. That's not what I'm saying, and you know it, Eraserhead. Then what are you saying? I'm saying, Kenji exhaled, rubbing his temples. I'm saying that this situation is a political nightmare. The mayor is demanding answers. Every news outlet in the country is running segments questioning the competence of professional heroes. And at the center of all of it is your student. It was no surprise. Barely 3 hours after the attack was quelled, the police chief had received a call from the HPSC to get to the bottom of this matter. My intern, Aizawa corrected flatly, who acted under my direct supervision at all times. Every engagement was authorized. Every action fell within the legal parameters of supervised field training under emergency circumstances. If you want to find fault, you'll need to look elsewhere. I'm not trying to find fault with the kid, the dogman uttered in a low voice. He has done exceptional work, saved lives, prevented what could have been a massacre. I'm not questioning his actions. The issue, Eraserhead, is not the result. It is the precedent. Akutami Yuta acted under your supervision, yes. That is a success for UA. But the White Fang individual? That is a disaster. To the public, these two events are linked by timing. His actions, however heroic, have created a narrative that makes the entire professional hero system look incompetent. And that narrative is spreading like wildfire. If we don't control this narrative, we lose the trust of the public. What are you saying? Aizawa's eyes narrowed. Kenji leaned forward. The HPSC wants to reframe last night's events, to minimize the vigilante angle and emphasize the professional hero response. They've asked me to request your cooperation in shaping the official narrative. Shaping the narrative, Aizawa repeated, his voice flat. You mean lying? It's not as it sounds. It sounds like you have a lot of paperwork to do, Chief, Aizawa said bluntly. But I'm a teacher, not a PR manager. My student followed my orders, saved lives, and survived. If the public is questioning the competence of the pro-hero system because a 15-year-old had to do their job for them, that is a failure of the system, not the student. The atmosphere grew heavy as silence fell in the room. Aizawa had been in the system long enough to know what the police chief was here for. Frankly, he wasn't giving it. The silence remained. But eventually, Kenji Tsurigami's posture softened as he realized he wasn't going to get a scripted confession or a submissive apology out of the man in front of him. So that's your final word on the matter? My job is to teach him how to be a hero, not a politician. If you want to spin the White Fang situation however you need to, that's your business. But my students' achievements stay accurate. If the HPSC wanted a puppet, they should have recruited from the drama department. Very well then, the chief of police uttered, standing up and tucking the laptop under his arm. I expected as much. Is that all? Aizawa's hand was on the door handle. Indeed. The dogman walked towards the door and paused. I do hope you teach him well. He's an exceptional young man and from the looks of it, will make a fine hero. I'll do my best to spin this so the boy doesn't get a target on his back from the commission. Have a good day. He left without another word. Hospital corridor, 10:45 a.m. Yuta stood by a vending machine, the temporary flip phone pressed to his ear. On the small, flickering TV screen mounted in the corner of the hallway, a news anchor was shouting over a clip of Endeavor being shielded by a mysterious white-haired figure. And you're absolutely sure you're not hurt? I'm fine, Mom. Really? Yuta said, his voice lowering as a nurse walked past. Yeah, you watched the whole thing, didn't you? I had backup. Aizawa-sensei was there the whole time, suppressing its quirks. It's not as strong as it looks. He chuckled. It was actually kind of fun. Yes, I know. Once again, you have no need to worry. How's Eri? Okay. Tell her I said hi when she wakes up. Love you too. Bye. The line went dead. Yuta lowered the phone, running a hand through his hair. On the television mounted in the corner of the waiting room, the news was still playing. Analysts debating the Hosu crisis, footage of his fight playing on loop, and the image of Stain being arrested. His eyes lingered on that last one. I did it. His days lasted until the image changed. Sigh. Why am I always finding myself at the heart of attacks lately? Just then, a door hissed open nearby. Tenya Ida stepped out, his usual stiff posture replaced by a weary slouch. He wasn't wearing his helmet. Akutami-kun, Tenya greeted with a small nod. Ida. Yuta stood, pocketing his phone. How's your brother? Tenya's expression softened. The doctors say he'll recover. No major organs were damaged from his fight. He'll need 2 or 3 weeks of physical therapy, but he's gonna be fine. He's already asking for his morning coffee. That's good to hear. Indeed. Ida's gaze drifted to the TV, where Yuta and Todoroki's faces were currently side by side under the headline, The Phantom and the Flame. UA's new elite? Looks like you've become famous, Tenya uttered. I'm sure the whole class will be in an uproar when they find out, if they haven't already. He paused, watching the footage of Yuta's crater punch play in slow motion. It seems you've gotten stronger since the sports festival. Yuta shook his head. Not really. If anything, the addition of support gear is the only difference. My actual strength hasn't had any significant surge since then. I see. His expression didn't give away whether he believed that statement or not. A familiar face caught Yuta's attention before he could continue. Aizawa appeared, his right arm still secured in its sling, his expression as tired as ever. Ida, Aizawa acknowledged with a nod. How's Ingenium? Stable, Tenya replied. The doctors are optimistic about his recovery. Good. Aizawa's gaze shifted to Yuta. Akutami, it's time. We're leaving. Yuta stood immediately. Where are we going? Back to UA. Tenya blinked. Already? But the investigation is continuing without us, Aizawa said firmly. We've given our statements. The local authorities have everything they need. Staying longer just feeds the media circus, and neither of us is in condition for that. He looked at Tenya. Give your brother my regards. He's a good hero. He'll pull through this. Thank you, Sensei. Tenya bowed slightly. You too, Akutami-kun. It's no problem. Yuta smiled wryly, then followed Aizawa down the hallway. As they walked, passing nurses and patients who stared with obvious recognition, Yuta spoke quietly. Sensei, why didn't we just go back to UA in the first place? Wouldn't that have been safer? Aizawa was silent for a moment, his boots clicking against the linoleum. I had a case lined up, he said finally. Underground work. A human trafficking ring operating between Hosu and Saitama. I was coordinating with a few other underground heroes to take them down this week. He glanced at Yuta. That's why we were going to focus on combat training with no public patrols. But with my arm like this, he gestured to the sling, I can't operate effectively. Plus, I feel you've already had enough excitement for 1 week. I see, Yuta muttered, understanding. Aizawa was an underground hero. Underground heroes didn't do patrols. It seemed his sensei had plans to take him into actual combat instead of standard hero work. Well, before all this at least, they reached the hospital exit. Outside, a crowd of reporters had already gathered, cameras ready. Aizawa glanced at them, then at Yuta. Keep your head down. Don't answer questions. Follow my lead. Understood. They pushed through the doors together. Immediately, the cameras flashed. Voices overlapped in a cacophony of shouted questions. Eraserhead. Over here.
Aku Tamikun.
What's your hero name going to be? Were you authorized for combat? Do you know the White Fang's identity? How does it feel to be called the hero of HOSU? Have you listened to Quirk analyst Yamamoto Hiroshi's report on your conduct? Just a statement, please. Aizawa's capture scarf shot out, creating a subtle barrier that kept the reporters from getting too close. His glare alone was enough to make several cameras lower. No comment, he said flatly. Direct all inquiries to UA High School's Public Relations Office. A police car was already waiting at the curb. They climbed in quickly, and the driver pulled away before the reporters could regroup. As Hosu City's skyline receded behind them, Yuta finally allowed himself to relax slightly. The ride to the train station was quiet. Neither spoke, both lost in their own thoughts about what they had just experienced. HOSU Police Headquarters, Press Conference Room, 11:30 a.m. Commissioner Kenji Tsurigami stood at the podium. Dozens of microphones pointed at him like weapons. Behind him, the Hosu Police Department logo loomed large on the wall. The room was packed. Every major news outlet, local reporters, and even some international press. Thank you for coming, Kenji began. His voice amplified through the sound system. I'll make a brief statement regarding last night's incident, then take limited questions.
Camera flashes erupted.
At approximately 6:42 p.m. yesterday, the terrorist organization known as the League of Villains launched a coordinated attack on Hosu City with multiple villains. 6 were deployed across multiple districts with the apparent goal of overwhelming our hero response network and causing mass casualties. He paused, letting that sink in. Thanks to the swift action of professional heroes, emergency services, and he hesitated. Other participants, the attack was repelled with 0 civilian fatalities. All threats were neutralized due to the combined efforts of our city's pro-heroes, Endeavor Underground Pro-Hero Eraserhead, and UA High School intern Akatami Yuta. Additionally, the hero killer Stain, wanted for 17 murders and 22 cases of permanent incapacitation of pro-heroes, has been apprehended and is currently in custody. The room erupted with shouted questions. Commissioner, what about the vigilante? Is White Fang connected to the police force? Is he some underground hero? Was Endeavor actually paralyzed? What do you have to say on UA interns outperforming the heroes of the city? Kenji raised a hand for silence. Regarding the unidentified individual known as White Fang, he let the weight of the name hang in the air. This person is being investigated as an unlicensed combatant who engaged in illegal vigilante activity. He leaned into the microphone, and while Endeavor may have been caught off guard, he was more than capable of defending himself and had everything under control. White Fang's intervention was unnecessary, with his use of abilities to permanently paralyze the hero killer being frankly against the law. Hero work without a license is a crime. Regardless of outcome, regardless of intent, vigilantism undermines the legal framework that keeps our society safe. The cameras zoomed in. The Hosu Police Department, in coordination with the Hero Public Safety Commission, is actively seeking information on White Fang's identity. We are treating him as a person of interest in multiple investigations, including the permanent injury of a wanted criminal. If apprehended, they will face charges for unlicensed quirk usage, vigilante activity, and potentially assault causing permanent bodily harm. He paused. We recognize that some may view White Fang's actions as heroic, but we cannot allow individuals, no matter how skilled or well-intentioned, to operate outside the law. That path leads to chaos, to copycats, to the erosion of the very system designed to protect all of us. A reporter stood up. Commissioner, are you saying White Fang is a criminal despite saving Endeavor? I feel the need to reiterate that White Fang did not save Endeavor. The number 2 hero was more than capable of handling the situation on his own, Kenji replied firmly. This is the official stance of the Hosu PD. The law doesn't make exceptions. If he had nothing to hide, he could have come forward, obtain a provisional license, and work within the system like every other hero. What about Akutami Yuta? Another reporter shouted. Aren't his actions basically the same thing? Akutami Yuta was operating under the direct supervision of a licensed pro hero on an internship basis, Kenji stated. He had legal authority to engage under emergency provisional regulations. His actions were fully within the law. There is a significant difference between a supervised student intern and an unlicensed masked vigilante. Commissioner, does the HPSC believe White Fang might be connected to the League of Villains? Kenji's expression didn't change, but internally, he noted the planted question from the Commission's media liaison. We are exploring all possibilities, he said carefully, including the theory that White Fang may have been a planted distraction designed to confuse public perception and undermine faith in professional heroes. The room exploded with noise. That's all for now, Kenji said, stepping back from the podium. Further updates will be released as the investigation progresses. Thank you. He left the stage to a storm of shouted questions. As he exited through the back hallway, his phone buzzed. A text from the HPSC liaison. Well done. League of Villains hideout noon. The television mounted on the cracked wall played the press conference on loop. Tamura Shigaraki sat on the chair, face buried in a newspaper while Kurojairi watched the news report for the 3rd time. The unidentified individual known as White Fang is being investigated as an unlicensed combatant. Eventually, he switched it off. Tamura? Shigaraki didn't respond, eyes fixed on the page. He's all they're talking about. The news report from last night's attack, all that destruction 6 Nomu. For this, he hadn't expected much, but he had at least expected the League of Villains to be in the spotlight. Instead, it was a brat who hadn't even grown out his pubic hair that they were clamoring over. What about my Nomu? He rasped, his voice thick with irritation. This time, it was Kurojairi's turn to be silent. I can't believe it. All of that work and we didn't even make the front page. Look at this. Hosu's student heroes. Mysterious White Fang. Endeavor's narrow escape. Where's the League of Villains? He threw the newspaper aside. It is not a total loss, Tamura. Endeavor's image has taken a hit, as has the image of heroes in general. We demonstrated our reach and forced the hero system to... We lost, Tamura interrupted, turning to face him. Don't sugarcoat it. We lost. Again. We had one job. Kill Endeavor. Shake the public's faith. Show them heroes can fall. And instead, we made 2 new heroes famous. His gaze turned to the blank TV screen. No one makes a fool out of me. Kurojairi. Find him, Tamura uttered. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what resources it requires. Find out who White Fang is. Find out where he lives. Find out everything. Of course, Kurojairi replied. And the student? Akutami Yuta. Him too. Tamura's hands returned to his neck, scratching with renewed vigor. I want to know everything about both of them. Schedules. Weaknesses. Loved ones. Everything. His eyes gleamed with barely restrained madness. Nobody makes a fool of Tamura Shigaraki. Yamanashi Prefecture. Bang! Izuka's back slammed against the wall. Ugh! He groaned, sliding slowly before making a thud. And your time's up, Gran Torino uttered with his hands on a stopwatch. Damn it! Already? Don't beat yourself, kid. You did good work. It's your first time using one for all this way after all. Managing to attack me while my guard was down, you must spend a lot of time thinking about strategizing and how to fight. Oh! Midoriya moved his hand away from his hair and fell into thought. Seems I'm heading in the right direction. Aye. Well, enough about that. We still have a lot of training ahead of us, so we best get ready. Huh. Oh, of course. Please, what's next, sir? Midoriya stood to his feet. Something very important. You still haven't had breakfast yet. Midoriya was stunned. Yes, you're right. Gran Torino smiled. Wonderful. Now, why don't you go heat up those pastries that you got this morn? The old man froze at the sight of the table. They had knocked it over in their spar, and along with it, the fish-shaped pastries he so loved to enjoy. They're all ruined. Don't worry. I'll go buy some more. A loud roar emerged from Gran Torino's residence, following which the door burst open as Midoriya ran outside. Phew, that was close. He praised his quick wit. Had I been a second slower, I might have gotten another beating. A smile made its way up his face. It's good though. I still have a long road ahead, but I can see where I'm going now. One for all, full cowling. That's the next step to making this quirk my own, he thought as he ran down the streets, turning few heads in the process, before he slowed down as it got more crowded. Oh, I made a wrong turn. He stopped and walked back. The pastry shop should be right at this corner. Ha! Midoriya paused at the sight of people gathering at the sidewalk, their eyes fixed on the billboard while discussing something he couldn't hear. What the? His eyes turned to the billboard showing images of 6 Nomu and a broadcaster. His eyes widened. Those are... Oh no. Did something. The screen changed. 20 seconds later, Midoriya's eyes widened. Is that? Genius Office, Tokyo, Japan. To be a good pro, your presence must calm those in danger and give them peace of mind. You must be capable, of course, but there are other things to consider. Your physical appearance, speech, and actions must all be elegant. You must give off the aura of a hero. Best Jeanist gave the final finishing touch before removing his comb, quite satisfied with his achievement. Do you understand? Get this crap off me. Bakugo Katsuki stood in front of a mirror, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated loathing for the man behind him with a pair of hair straighteners. He was swaddled in high-collared denim that restricted his neck movement, making him look more like a high-fashion mannequin than the human hand grenade he was. That is a bad call. I'll kill you. Bakugo's hands shot to his hair, trying to rip out the product, but Best Jeanist's fiber manipulation was already at work. Thin threads of denim wrapped around his wrists like invisible handcuffs, gently but firmly pulling his arms back down. What an unruly child, Best Jeanist thought. Now, destruction of one's appearance is hardly befitting a professional hero. We have a public appearance scheduled for this afternoon. I don't care about your stupid appearance. Bakugo roared, small explosions popping from his palms despite the restraints. Let me go, you denim-wearing. Language, Best Jeanist cut in. A hero's vocabulary reflects there. He was interrupted as one of his many sidekicks, a young man in denim-themed gear, hurried into the room holding a tablet. Sir, an incident occurred in Hosu last night. The city's police chief just dropped an official statement. It's all over the wire. Oh, Best Jeanist paused. Put it on the screen. The sidekick did. The video of a press conference with a dogman in a professional suit came into view. Thanks to the swift action of professional heroes, emergency services, and other participants, the attack was repelled with 0 civilian fatalities. All threats were neutralized due to the combined efforts of our city's pro-heroes, Endeavor, an underground pro-hero Eraserhead, and UA High School intern Akatami Yuta. Bakugo's feral struggles froze. Best Jeanist raised an eyebrow.
Why?
Akatami, isn't that the young man with the excellent performance at the UA Sports Festival? It's the same one, sir. What the? Bakugo growled. Hey you, what the hell are you talking about? The sidekick swiped. A different video emerged. The footage wasn't a professional camera crew's work. It was raw, shaky cell phone video. It showed a dark, tactical-clad figure in the sky with a chain wrapped around the neck of a winged monstrosity. The hero student identified as Yuta Akatami has reportedly neutralized 4 high-level threats. The reporter's voice cut through the office. Eyewitnesses describe a magnitude 2 earthquake caused by a single strike. Bakugo's eyes shrank to pinpricks. The coif genist had worked so hard on began to fray as the sheer heat radiating from Bakugo's scalp started to melt the hair product. Hosu? Akatami was in Hosu. He watched a second video of the manhole cover strike. This one from the NHK professional news crew. That damn extra. Bakugo's voice was a low, vibrating growl. So that's what he was holding out on me. I see. So this is your rival who you prevailed over in the sports festival. Best Jeanist's voice fell into his ears, causing him to grind his teeth. Remarkable. His silhouette lacks tailoring, Jeanist remarked. But his impact is undeniable. It seems your classmate has surpassed the expectations of a mere student. Best Jeanist observed Bakugo's expression carefully, his clenched jaw tightening fists, and realized, I see this as a sensitive topic. Shut up, Bakugo ground out. Jealousy is unbecoming, Bakugo, though I suppose it's natural to feel overshadowed when I said shut up. Bakugo's hair snapped back into its jagged, explosive state in an instant. I'm gonna beat his face in the next time I see him. He remembered Yuta's words at the staircase. You know you're just gonna lose, right? Explosions shot out of his palms as he escaped the denim grip. Jeans, man, we're done with the combing. Take me to the damn training room already. Best Jeanist only hummed, adjusting his collar. I can see your enthusiasm, but I don't really think that's what you need right now. The feral blonde blanked. What? You listen to me, you denim freak. Bakugo pointed at Best Jeanist with barely contained rage. I came here to learn how to be the best. That's my only goal. To be the #1 hero and surpass all might. You keep this up much longer, and I'm gonna smash your face in before hightailing out of here. And what makes you think raw power alone is enough to make you the best? What the hell are you? This is precisely what we need to work on. Best Jeanist turned off the television with a wave of his hand. Your talent is undeniable, Bakugo. Your raw power is exceptional. But power without refinement is simply destruction. He ignored the boy's darkening expression and continued. Your friend made quite an impact during the sports festival. He's not my friend. And now, Best Jeanist ignored him. He's made another major appearance in front of the media. His image will probably skyrocket after this to an all-time high. Meanwhile, they remember you as the boy who had to be chained to a podium because he refused to accept his victory. Bakugo's face went red. That's not. I didn't. Perception is reality in the hero business, Best Jeanist continued calmly. If you were the one to do the same thing he did in your crass and violent manners, public perception would be against you instead of for you. If you think someone with an unlikable image can become the #1 hero, all you have to do is look at Endeavor, who, in my view, is a hero the public can rely on to win, but not one they can trust to protect them properly. I don't care what the public thinks, Bakugo spat. Then you will never be #1. The words hung in the air like a guillotine blade as Bakugo went very still. His fists clenched even tighter, but there was no further report. No outburst. So fortunately, not unredeemable. Best Jeanist met his gaze evenly. Being the strongest is not the same as being the best. All Might isn't the symbol of peace just because he can throw the hardest punch. He's the symbol of peace because when he arrives, people feel safe. When he smiles, fear disappears. He gestured. If you need another example, you can look at the 8th-ranked pro Washington. Would you in any way think his power surpasses the dragon hero Ryukyu, ranked 9th? No. Image is just as important as power. Many times even more so. There are many things a bigger explosion just won't fix. Vaish. Bakugo's voice was a low, sandpaper rasp. You're telling me that a guy who looks like a damn laundry machine is better than me because he has a better image? In the eyes of the public? Yes, Best Jeanist replied. Because when a disaster strikes, people don't just want a weapon. They want a savior. A weapon is terrifying, Bakugo. A savior is reassuring. TCH. So what do you want from me? He finally said, the words forced out like pulling teeth. Best Jeanist's expression didn't change, but there was the faintest hint of approval in his eyes. Acknowledge that there is more to being a hero than winning fights. That's the first step. Then actually focus on your lessons. Silence. Still too stubborn, are you? Best Jeanist resisted the urge to shake his head. Fine then, let's reach a compromise. Bakugo's head snapped up. What kind of compromise? You clearly have concerns about falling behind your peers in terms of combatability, and I recognize that pure etiquette training will not address those concerns. Best Jeanist moved to his desk, pulling up a schedule on his tablet. Therefore, I suggest this. If you can demonstrate that you've internalized even one lesson about public image and proper conduct during today's patrol, if you can even go the whole day without screaming at a single civilian, I will dedicate the majority of your internship to combat-focused training. Bakugo's eyes narrowed. One lesson? That's it. One lesson properly applied in a real-world scenario, Best Jeanist replied. Not just going through the motions. I want to see genuine understanding of why image matters. Do that, and I'll teach you techniques that will make your explosions twice as effective in urban combat. The bait was too good to refuse. Fine, Bakugo growled. But I'm not changing my hair. No, that can't be negotiated. You look too much like a street ruffian, especially with that ever-present scowl of yours. Bakugo gritted his teeth. I'm not agreeing to that. Well, I'm not taking a step back either. It's either your hair, or you have to always carry a smile on your face. Best Jeanist faced him fully. As your classmate said during the sports festival, pick your poison. Bakugo looked like he had swallowed a fly. Gunhead martial arts. Osaka. Early afternoon. Ochako Uraraka stood at the edge of the training mat, her hero costume still crisp and new, watching Gunhead demonstrate a throw on one of his larger students. The key, Gunhead's surprisingly gentle voice explained as he executed a perfect hip toss, is using your opponent's momentum against them. Size doesn't matter if you have proper technique. The student, easily twice Gunhead's mass, hit the mat with a thunderous impact. Whoa! Ochako clapped in amazement. Gunhead helped his student up, then turned to address the small class. All right, everyone, pair up for grappling drills. Uraraka-san, you're with me for your first session. Yes, sensei. Ochako bowed quickly. Let's start with basic grappling defense. Come at me. Ochako hesitated, then lunged forward. 2 seconds later, she was on her back, staring at the ceiling. Ow! Your center of gravity was too high, and you telegraphed your approach, Gunhead explained, offering her a hand up. Again, they repeated the drill. And again, and again. By the 30th attempt, Ochako was panting, but she'd actually managed to avoid the immediate takedown. Better, Gunhead praised. You're learning quickly. Take 10 minutes to catch your breath. Ochako nodded, stumbling over to the water fountain. Oh, my back hurts. As she drank, she heard voices from the other students. Did you see the Hosu news? Yeah, crazy stuff. For villains in one night, all by himself. Oh please, you give the kid way too much credit. He's not bad, but he could do it because Eraserhead was there. Those things didn't have the chance to use their quirk. The first scoffed. Those things were freakishly strong even without their quirks. Have you even seen the video? The second smiled and shrugged. Heh. Let's talk again when he has his own solo takedown. Until then, he's still just a kid from UA.
What?
Mr. Aizawa? Ochako lowered her water bottle, the cool liquid forgotten in her mouth. Isn't Yuta-kun with Mr. Aizawa? Curious. She stepped toward the two students, older boys with more muscular builds who were gunhead sidekicks. The boys were engrossed in their conversation when a slightly breathless voice fell into their ears. Excuse me, she piped up. Did you say someone from you was in the news? The student who had been opposing the kid turned around. Oh hey, Uraraka-san. Yeah, it's all over the internet. Some students from your school apparently went ham in Hosu last night. They're calling him the White Fang or something. The second one rolled his eyes, even more sure that his teammate truly didn't have much understanding of what happened last night. White Fang. Ochako blinked. Can I see? The student pulled out his phone and pulled up a viral clip titled Hosu Massacre Narrowly Avoided. Ochako leaned in. The footage was grainy, shot from a high-rise window. Aren't those? For those at USJ, the Nomu resemblance was unmistakable. Her attention didn't focus on that for long, though, as someone else appeared on the scene just as the heroes were struggling to contain the rampaging Nomu. She watched as a boy in tactical black gear swung a massive iron chain, dragging a winged monster out of the sky and slamming it into the asphalt with a force that made the camera shake. That's Yuta-kun, she whispered, her eyes wide. The second student, the skeptic, leaned over her shoulder. Wait, you know him? Yeah, Ochako said as she watched the figure on the screen. He's in my class, Akutami Yuta. The skeptic sidekick raised an eyebrow, his smug expression wavering. Wait, for real? He's a first year? I thought for sure he was some undercover pro or a third-year sidekick with a growth stunt quirk. The one beside him rolled his eyes even more. Still saying you watched the video, didn't you? White Fang is a vigilante. Ochiko's eyes widened in shock. Yuta's become a vigilante. Huh? Oh no, you got it all wrong. A lot of stuff happened last night, so you should probably watch everything yourself. He turned his gaze to the one beside him. Unlike some people. Hey, what's with that look? Thanks. Uraraka handed the phone back with a smile and turned away. Walking back to the bench, she sat down and went online. Everything was cleared up as she watched the news reports and footage of Yuta working in tandem with her homeroom teacher. Then the video from the professional news crew. Awesome. Her face brightened, genuinely happy. Yuta-kun's all over the news. She never would have imagined it. Hold on. This is technically his official hero debut, isn't it? Is he okay though? Countless thoughts went through her head. I should probably give him a call. She searched her contacts, only to remember. Oh right, his phone got destroyed. And I don't really have his contact either, even if that weren't the case. Alright, break's over. Everyone back on the mats. Gunhead called out in the distance. Right? She put her phone away, her sore back no longer aching as much. His internship is going so well, but fighting those things probably wasn't easy. He must be exhausted, she thought, a pang of worry cutting through her focus. Uraraka-san? Ready to continue? Yes, sensei. She hurried back to the mat. He's already doing real hero work, she thought, her grip tightening. I can't let myself fall behind. I have to get stronger. Mount Lady's agency. Mount Lady's apartment. Late afternoon. Minoru Mineta stood in the supply closet, wearing cleaning gear above his uniform that was 2 sizes too big. His phone sat on a nearby shelf, still occasionally buzzing with notifications he refused to check. Unlike most, he had been gooning off to perverted material half the entire night after his first day as an intern manservant. So he already knew what they were about. Yuta, Hosu, the Black Phantom. Of course it's him, Mineta thought bitterly, alphabetizing spray bottles with more aggression than necessary. Of course the guy who made me look like an idiot at the sports festival is now a national hero. The memory of his humiliating first-round loss still stung. This is so unfair. He's out there doing hero work while I'm practically a manservant in this dump. Grapefruit boy. Mount Lady's voice boomed from down the hall. Yes, Mount Lady-san? He called back, barely suppressing a grumble. Break room. Now. Mineta trudged down the hallway, his 2 large uniform pants dragging on the floor. He found Mount Lady lounging on the break room couch, a fashion magazine in one hand and the TV remote in the other. The television was on, showing some afternoon talk show. You called Mount Lady-san? Grab me a coffee. 2 sugars, no cream. Mineta's eye twitched. Why you? What was that? Nothing. Coming right up. While Mineta was having a week of indentured servitude, the atmosphere at UA High was no less stressful. UA Infirmary, afternoon. I told you to be careful, you overgrown mop. Chio Shizenji snapped, her voice thick with irritation. Barely a month after USJ, and you come back with yet another broken arm from a similar creature. She was currently standing on a stool to reach the height of Aizawa's shoulder, poking at the bandages on his arm with the tip of her cane. It was a combat situation, Chio, Aizawa replied. Injuries are part of the job description. Stupidity overestimating yourself is not. She snapped, delivering a sharp bonk to his shin. You're lucky that student of yours has a better quirk than you do. If he hadn't neutralized those monsters when he did, you'd be coming back in a jar instead of a cast. Aizawa's expression didn't flinch. Sure. How long before my arms healed? You still want to get back to work after this? You could have had permanent damage too. I'm taking an internship. Recovery girl snorted. It's no excuse to neglect your body. You just healed last week. Luckily, the hospital took care of this properly, and you have me. She kissed his arm, causing a wave of exhaustion to follow. Moi. There you go. I recommend you take the rest of the day off and the day after. Doctor's orders. I see. He uttered and then turned to face Yuta, who stood a few paces back, leaning against a cabinet of medical supplies. Akutami. It's unfortunate, but you'll have to wait a bit longer. I know your training's already been delayed a bit, but as you can see, it's fine, Aizawa-sensei. Yuta cut him off. I understand. Your health comes first. Recovery girl nodded approvingly. At least one of you has some sense. She hopped off her stool with surprising agility for someone her age. Now shoo! Both of you. Aizawa ignored the jab, his attention still on Yuta. We'll resume training once I'm cleared. 2 days, maybe 3 at most. In the meantime, he paused, his expression shifting to something more serious. You should go home. Yuta blinked. Home. Hainohara. Isn't it? Aizawa said. Your mother and sister must have seen the news. After everything that's happened in the last 48 hours, I imagine they'd want to see you in person rather than just hear your voice over a phone. Yuta nodded. He had considered doing the same thing. However, with respect, Sensei, is that really the best idea? The Shai Hasaikai are still out there. If they tracked me to the Shinkansen once, what's stopping them from? From what? Aizawa interrupted. Launching a full-scale assault on a residential district in broad daylight? Attacking a civilian home with a child inside? He shook his head. This might sound odd considering they already pulled a big stunt, but they're Yakuza remnants, not suicidal maniacs. Why do you think they chose their attack on a train instead of your home? Yuta fell silent. Precisely because it was the best plan they could come up with. Isolated, controlled environment, minimal hero presence. Your home is the opposite of that. It's a well-off district with rapid response times and numerous hero patrols. But the local precinct in Hainohara has already been notified, Aizawa continued, his tone leaving no room for argument. There will be increased patrols in your neighborhood for the next week. Additionally, UA has assigned a plainclothes security detail to monitor the area. You won't see them, but they'll be there. Hiding at UA indefinitely isn't a solution. The Hasaikai will either make another move or they won't. Either way, keeping you locked down here sends the message that we're afraid of them. It also draws more attention to UA, which is the last thing we, and you in particular as a student in a nationwide media storm, need right now. If anything, they'll be laying low due to your increased popularity. I see. Yuta hesitated for a moment, then nodded slowly. Understood, Sensei. Good. Go home. Spend time with your family. Reassure them that you're fine. Then come back the day after tomorrow and we'll begin your training properly. All right, I'll head out then. Yuta nodded once more, then gave a polite bow to Recovery Girl, who was already busy tidying up her workstation. Thanks for the help, Shizenji-san. Oh please. Him actually listening to my advice would be thanks enough. Aizawa rolled his eyes. Go. With that, Yuta left, the door clicking shut behind him. Recovery Girl watched the door for a moment before turning back to Aizawa. That boy's going to have a target on his back for the rest of his career, you know? I know, Aizawa replied quietly. It's reality, unfortunately. Humph. Make sure to watch that one. She turned back to her work. He's probably even more pragmatic than you are. I'll keep that in mind. Aizawa moved toward the door. Thanks, Chio. Don't thank me. Just follow my advice for once. He didn't respond, already stepping into the hallway. Ayuwai, umenslat. The corridors of UA were quieter now. While the Hero Course students had gone on internships, the other course students were still in their afternoon classes or already dismissed for the day. Aizawa turned a corner, heading towards his destination, the principal's office. Nizu had sent a message earlier requesting his presence once Recovery Girl had finished with him. Given the timing and recent events, Aizawa had a fairly good idea what the meeting would be about. He reached the ornate door at the end of the administrative wing and knocked twice. Come in, came Nizu's cheerful voice from within. Aizawa pushed the door open. The office was more crowded than he'd expected. Principal Nizu sat behind his desk, a cup of tea steaming beside a neat stack of papers. To his left, near the window, was Toshinori Yagi. Seated on the couch to the right were present Mike and Midnight, the former looking at him with a half-smile. Finally, standing near the bookshelf with folded arms was Snipe. Aizawa. Present Mike was the first to speak. Man, you look like you got hit by a truck. Oh wait, you kinda did. Very funny. Aizawa's eyes twitched. Glad you're still in one piece, partner. Snipe drawled from his spot by the bookshelf. Recovery Girl work her magic? She did. Said I need to rest for 2 days. Maybe 3. And will you? Nizu asked, his tone light but pointed. Probably not, Aizawa admitted. But I'll take it easy. That's not the same thing, Toshinori said quietly, his rough voice carrying a note of concern. You push yourself too hard, Aizawa, even by pro-hero standards. Coming from you, that's rich. Midnight snickered. Nizu set his teacup down with a soft clink, drawing everyone's attention. Now then, I'm sure you've already guessed why I've called you all here. Akutami, Aizawa said simply. Precisely. Nizu folded his paws. His performance in Hosu has generated considerable attention. The media storm surrounding him shows no signs of abating. Indeed, Midnight uncrossed her arms. I've been fielding calls from reporters all morning. I've seen the news, Aizawa replied. The media's been dissecting every second of footage they can get their hands on. Half of them are calling him a hero, the other half are questioning why a student was in that situation to begin with. An unfortunate but predictable reaction, Nizu said. The HPSC has been working overtime to control the narrative, though I suspect their efforts will only go so far. Public opinion is a fickle thing, and young Akatami has managed to capture it in a way few students ever do. Is that a problem? Aizawa asked. Not really, Nizu replied. Young Akatami's actions were exemplary. If anything, this situation has highlighted several positive aspects of UA's training curriculum. Midnight nodded in agreement. The public response has been overwhelmingly positive. His approval ratings are through the roof. People are calling him the future of hero society. Which is precisely why we need to be careful, Nizu added in a light tone. As good as this is, fame is a double-edged sword. It can elevate a hero to great heights, but it can also attract unwanted attention. You're talking about villains. Among other things, Nizu confirmed. The League of Villains has already demonstrated a willingness to target students. Young Akatami's performance in Hosu has painted an even larger target on his back. They will remember him. That's not even putting the last issue into consideration. Everyone in the room had been briefed about the Shinkansen incident. Kids these days. What a pain. Tell me about it. Speaking of which, where is he, Aizawa? I sent him home, Aizawa replied. He's gone through enough. Some time with his family is best. Agreed, Nizu said with a small smile. Now, speaking of young Akatami, he reached for a tablet on his desk, tapping the screen a few times before turning it toward Aizawa. There is one other matter we should discuss. Nizu held up a folded newspaper. The grainy image from Hosu was front and center, but the headline had shifted from speculative to sensational. The Black Phantom. Hosu's unknown guardian revealed ASUA freshman. The media is very efficient at doxing when they find a good story, Nizu said with a toothy grin. It seems the masses have decided young Akatami's hero name for him. The name had been trending globally for the past 12 hours, with over 15 million mentions across social media platforms. Aizawa stared at the headline. He already has a hero name. Not anymore, it seems. Present Mike cackled. I doubt he can change this. The kids have been bested here. Kid doesn't even get to choose his own hero name. That's cold. It's not unheard of. Many heroes have had their names influenced by public perception. It's part of the job. Still, having it happen before you even graduate? That's rough. Nizu set the tablet down, his expression thoughtful. Of course, young Akatami is under no obligation to accept the name. But given the circumstances and the sheer momentum behind it, I would advise him to seriously consider it. Fighting public opinion on this matter would be difficult and potentially counterproductive. Well, they can't all be winners. Aizawa sighed. It's ultimately his choice. That's not our problem. Indeed. Nizu picked up his teacup again, taking a slow sip. In the meantime, I suggest we all prepare for the next few days. They will be eventful. Now then, unless anyone has further concerns, I believe we've covered everything for today. Present Mike stood, stretching his arms above his head. Well, I'm gonna go grab some food. Anyone wanna join? I'll pass, Snipe said. Got patrol tonight. Same, Midnight added. Though I'll take a rain check. Everyone headed towards the exit. Mr. Aizawa, a moment, please. Nizu called out just before Aizawa stood up. UA High School? Cafeteria? 12:40 p.m. The cafeteria was a sea of noise unlike any other. Students from different courses across all 3 years discussed animatedly about the current trending topics all over the country. Yep, that's him, all right. A guy from General Studies 1C grinned at his friend. Come on, pay up. The boy snorted before taking out his limited edition number 1 Tales of All Might comic book and handing it over with a pained expression. Don't go anywhere, baby. Daddy's gonna win you back. I swear it. Hee hee. The friend smiled, turning his head. Hey, Shinso, are you gonna keep looking? You've watched that so many times already. The boy with purple wild hair had his eyes narrow. TCH. Every television monitor mounted on the walls was muted, but the scrolling ticker tape at the bottom was universal. UA student neutralizes multiple villains. The Black Phantom, hero or vigilante? General Studies transfer shakes hero society. Meanwhile, at their usual table in the far corner of the General Studies section, the atmosphere was significantly less heroic. 15 million mentions, Kimura said with a piece of potato on his spoon. I don't know if I should be jealous or mad. Tanaka raised an eyebrow. Don't you mean jealous or happy? You heard me just fine the first time. 15 million. Do you know how many followers I'd have if I got 15 million mentions? I could retire before graduation, start a brand, become a celebrity, maybe have 6 girlfriends. Well, let's be happy it's not you. Tanaka chuckled at Kimura's sour face while scrolling through his phone. Though, to be fair, this video of him slamming that winged thing into the pavement has like 10 million views on its own. They're calling it the Phantom Smash. What do you think, Hannah? He looked up only to see Hannah wasn't looking at a screen. Rather, the girl was aggressively stirring her miso soup before proceeding to stab a piece of broccoli with her chopsticks. Hannah? Why are you stabbing that innocent broccoli? Hannah's white hair flowers were wilted and drooping toward her forehead. Her pout was so pronounced at this point that anyone could guess what she was thinking. She looked up. Sorry, what did you say? I was asking what you thought of Yuta's video. Her face turned sour in an instant. What the? She snorted, taking another stab at the broccoli, her expression one of theatrical annoyance. Yeah, what's there to talk about? He seems just fine. Oh, sour are we? Why shouldn't I be? It's been, less than a week? Barely 6 days since he officially jumped ship to the hero course. She grumbled, resting her chin on her hand. And already he's fighting monsters, getting cool nicknames, and probably hanging out in top-secret lounges with All Might. He's probably forgotten we even exist. I don't know about top-secret lounges, Kimura muttered, watching his skin shift to a slightly envious shade of lime green. But he's definitely busy. Did you see the size of that crater he made in the street? You don't make craters like that and then have time to grab crepes after school. Agreed. Tanaka adjusted his glasses. He's been in the hero course for 5 days of actual school, and he spent 2 of those in Hosu. Give the guy some credit. He's probably just trying to figure out how to put on that weird mask without catching his hair in the zipper or something. Easy for you to say. He didn't even reply to my last text, Hannah said, her voice dropping into a dramatic whisper of betrayal. I sent him a picture of that weird mushroom I grew in biology class. I got nothing but crickets. He's gone full celebrity on us. Hell, he'll probably have a personal assistant and a pair of sunglasses indoors the next time we see him. Kimura snorted. The mushroom? It was a very impressive mushroom. As she prepared to launch into a full-scale defense of her botanical skills, a shadow fell over the table. Kimura's eyes flickered upward, his teal skin suddenly flashing back to a neutral peach. Tanaka's hand stilled on his phone, a small, knowing smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Hannah, however, was too deep in her performance to notice the sudden silence of her companions. I'm just saying, she continued, waving a chopstick for emphasis. It's classic. He gets a little bit of fame, a cool black costume, and suddenly the general studies peasants are just a distant memory. She sighed even more dramatically. I know. I'm being dramatic again. He's probably, it's really not nice to talk behind someone's back. A familiar voice interrupted from directly behind her. Hannah froze. The daisies near her temple did a sharp, vertical boing of surprise. Especially, the voice continued with a hint of laughter, when that someone just got back from Hosu and was looking forward to a quiet lunch. Hannah spun around so fast she nearly knocked over her miso soup. Draped in his uniform, Yuta looked remarkably human for a guy who had spent the weekend as a national headline. A bit frayed at the edges, but the smirk he gave them was exactly the same one he'd worn back when they were all just the Gray Badge crew. "Yuta," Hannah squawked, her hair flowers instantly snapping back to full, vibrant bloom. You're not in a top-secret lounge. Last I checked, this is the cafeteria," Yuta said, pulling a chair out and collapsing into it. "And unless All Might is hiding under the table, it's just us." "The Black Phantom himself," Kimura joked, though he reached out and gave Yuta's shoulder a solid, grounding thud. "You look like crap, man." "Noted. And that's not my hero name." "Well, you better make sure it is. It sounds sick as hell." "Yeah, everyone's talking about it. Your stunt at Hosu's everywhere. How does it feel to be famous?" "You asked me the same question during the sports festival," Yuta replied. "And you gave us the same boring answer," Kimura shot back. "Come on, man. At least pretend to enjoy being a celebrity." Pass. Tanaka pushed his glasses up. "So what happened? You just vanished after the sports festival. We barely saw you all last week." "The hero course schedule is brutal," Yuta admitted. "Between catching up on what I missed, the internship prep, and then, well, everything that happened in Hosu." His eyes shifted to Hannah, who was still staring at him with that mix of embarrassment and stubborn pride. "And before you complain about me ignoring your texts," Yuta said, pulling out a basic flip phone from his pocket. "This is my third phone in a month. The first one died during my accident before the sports festival. The second one got destroyed yesterday during the train incident." Hannah blinked. "Wait, the train incident? Long story. Yakuza remnants tried to kidnap me on a Shinkansen. It didn't go well for them or my phone." "What?" "The point is," Yuta continued, holding up the cheap replacement phone, "I literally just got this thing. I haven't even finished setting it up. So that mushroom picture you're so proud of? I never saw it." Hannah's face went through several shades of red. "Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, I wasn't actually mad about the mushroom. You just said I was ignoring you and going full celebrity," Yuta quoted with a slight smile. "I was being dramatic," Hannah protested, her flowers blooming even brighter in embarrassment. "It's what I do."
I'm aware.
Kimura laughed. "Man, you walked right into that one, Hannah." "Shut up," she muttered. Tanaka leaned forward, his curiosity overriding his amusement. "But seriously, though, Yakuza remnants? On a train?" "Yep." Kimura's eyes twitched. "Care to add anything else?" "It's classified." Everyone's eyes twitched. The table fell into a brief silence. Then Kimura cleared his throat. "So, new phone. Does that mean you need all our numbers again?" Yuta pulled out the flip phone. "Yeah, actually. This thing is so basic it doesn't even have a decent camera. I'm pretty sure it's from 2005. "Perfect for you then," Hannah said, her teasing tone returning. "Mr. I don't want fame." "Exactly." As they started rattling off their numbers, Yuta became acutely aware of something. Eyes. Lots of eyes. He glanced around the cafeteria and realized that at least a dozen students were staring at their table. Some were being subtle about it, pretending to look at their phones while clearly watching him. Others weren't even trying to hide it. Yuta said, "Is it just me? Or is everyone staring?" Kimura snorted. "Oh, you just noticed? Dude, you walked in and half the cafeteria did a double take. You're basically a celebrity now. Get used to it," Tanaka said. "You're the first general studies student to transfer to the hero course in over a decade, and then you immediately went viral fighting monsters. People are curious." "Curious is an understatement," Hannah muttered, glancing around. "I think that girl from support course has taken like 6 pictures already." Yuta followed her gaze and, sure enough, spotted a girl with pink dreadlocks quickly lowering her phone. "Great," he muttered. "Could be worse," Kimura offered. "At least they're not asking for autographs." As if on cue, a nervous-looking first year started walking toward their table, clutching a notebook. Yuta gave Kimura a flat look. You just had to say something. My bad. The first year stopped a few feet away, shuffling awkwardly. Excuse me? Are you Akutami-senpai? Senpai? I'm a first year. Yuta sighed internally. Yeah. See, could you sign this? The kid thrust the notebook forward. My little brother saw you on TV, and he thinks you're really cool, and I told him I go to UA and... Sure, Yuta said, taking the notebook before he could spiral further into nervous rambling. He scribbled his name quickly and handed it back. Thank you. The first year bowed deeply and scurried away. Hana watched the exchange with barely contained amusement. Senpai, huh? Don't. Akutami-senpai, she repeated, her grin widening. It has a nice ring to it. Keep going and I'll just leave this table for you guys. They laughed, and for a moment, it felt like old times, which was odd considering they didn't know each other 2 months ago. Then Tanaka's eyes flickered to something over Yuta's shoulder, and his expression shifted to one of surprise. Yuta? What? Don't look now, but I think you've got more visitors. Yuta turned around. 2 figures were approaching their table, both wearing the distinctive UA uniform but with an air of confidence that marked them as upperclassmen. The first was a tall, muscular boy with blonde hair and a smile so bright it could probably power a small city. The second was a girl with long, periwinkle hair and wide, curious eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Are those? Upperclassmen. 2 unfamiliar faces headed towards their desks. As for who they were and what they wanted with him, well, Yuta had absolutely no idea about the first but had some inkling of the second. The blonde boy, Mirio Togata, beamed down at the table with a level of charisma that felt like standing too close to a heat lamp. Beside him, the girl was practically vibrating, her periwinkle hair swaying as she tilted her head at a gravity-defying angle to look at Yuta's face. Found him. Mirio, look, we found the first year. Wow, her voice is kinda... Close, too close. Yuta's internal monologue came to a grinding halt as Nijire Hato leaned in so close to Yuta that he had to lean back into Hana's space. Hey, are you really the one from General Studies? Is your hair naturally that red? Does it glow when you use your quirk? Why do they call you Phantom? Can you actually disappear, or do you just move really fast? What's your quirk exactly? Did those villains really have no weaknesses? How did you know where to hit them? And what about the chain? Where did you get that chain? Was it custom-made? And, Nijire-san, maybe let him breathe first? Mirio laughed, though his own excitement was palpable. He gave Yuta a thumbs up. Great work in Hosu, Jr. You really showed a lot of power out there. It's not every day a freshman makes that much of a splash. Yuta blinked. I'm sorry, you are? Oh, right. Mirio slapped his forehead with a laugh that boomed across the general studies section. Where are my manners? I'm Mirio Togata, a 3rd year from the hero course. And this inquisitive cloud is Nijire Hato. 3rd years? Kimura whispered, his eyes going wide. Wait, Togata? Is he that guy who kept accidentally losing his clothes last year's sports festival? Kimura, shut up, Tanaka hissed. How insensitive can someone be? Hana resisted the urge to facepalm them right there. Yuta couldn't care for their theatrics, as Nijire still hadn't moved an inch out of Yuta's personal space. What the hell? And here I thought Hatsum was the only one who did this. Hey, why's your face turning red? What? Your cheeks look like they're matching your hair. Is that a thing with your quirk? Can you please move backwards? Oh, right. Sorry. Nijire clasped her hands together, though her excited energy didn't diminish at all. But seriously, how did you move so fast? Is it your quirk? Or is the chain your quirk? Why are you so interested in my quirk? I read online that making chains is part of your quirk, and you need to swallow iron to do it, so I wanted to know if it hurts when you do it. Hehe, don't mind Nijire. She's very excited, Mirio uttered with a smile. As for the mention of his previous deeds, no one mentioned them. Yuta's eyelids twitched. What the hell did using a chain have to do with his quirk? Eventually, he just sighed. It's nice to meet you both.
I'm Akutami Yute.
We know. Mirio grinned, placing a large, steadying hand on Nijire's shoulder to gently reel her back. The whole school knows. We were just in the neighborhood and wanted to say hi to the freshman everyone's talking about. Our friend Tamaki wanted to come too, but, well, he's currently trying to become a wall in the hallway. Yuta glanced toward the cafeteria entrance. Sure enough, a boy with messy dark hair was standing facing a pillar, his forehead pressed against the concrete, as if he were trying to phase into another dimension. What level of social anxiety is... Wait, why does this seem so familiar? Those familiar déjà vu moments came again. Damn, this is one of those transmigrator moments, isn't it? 3 students. Hold on. His eyes widened. You guys are the big 3. Everyone looked at him. Big 3 of what? It was Nijire that answered, much to his surprise. What the... Am I wrong? No, I can't be wrong. Sorry for being so direct. Mirio-senpai, does your quirk allow you to slip through things? Mirio's eyebrows shot up in genuine surprise. Oh, yeah, it does. Permeation. I can phase through solid objects. He grinned wider. How'd you know? Did you watch last year's sports festival? Something like that, Yuta said vaguely. Wait, so they are the big 3. But they haven't been introduced yet, which means they're just regular 3rd years right now. Strong ones, but not officially the big 3 that everyone knows. Ooh, did you figure it out from how he moves? Nijire bounced slightly. Or did someone tell you? Are you good at analyzing quirks? Can you analyze mine? What do you think my quirk is? Yuta blinked at the rapid-fire questions. I just made an educated guess based on reputation. Reputation? Mirio smiled. Well, I guess I am pretty famous. That's no problem, though. So, Mirio-senpai, Yuta said, trying to regain some semblance of a normal conversation. What can I do for you? Nothing at all. Just wanted to see the face of the guy who's shaking things up. It's rare to see a transfer make it into the hero course, let alone handle a situation like Hosu with that much composure. You've got good eyes, Akutami-kun. He does. They're like, intense, Nijire chirped. I saw your eyes glow red during the sports festival broadcast and then again in the Hosu footage. They were really red. Kinda reminds me of Aizawa-sensei's eyes when he uses his quirk. Her voice turned contemplative, and Yuta could practically see the gears turning in her head. Come to think of it, Aizawa-sensei never takes on personal interns, yet you're his intern at Hosu, and he seems very invested in you. Why is that? Yuta felt a sense of dread building. Oh no. Judging Nijire from the past 59 seconds, he had a bad feeling she was about to spout something absurd next. Sure enough, the next thing that came out shocked even him. Nijire's eyes suddenly went wide, and her entire face lit up with realization. You have the same eyes as Aizawa-sensei when you both use your quirks. You both have black hair. You both have that same tired expression. Please don't. You're not secretly his love child, are you? Secret love child? The cafeteria, which had already been leaning in to eavesdrop on the interaction, suddenly hit a vacuum of silence. Yuta felt his soul briefly attempt to leave his body. Behind him, Tanaka let out a choked sound that was half cough, half strangled laugh, while Hana choked on her soup. Love child. Kimura's skin flashed through 3 different colors in rapid succession. Nijire-san. Even Mirio looked momentarily stunned. That's a bit leap heavy, don't you think? But look at them. Nijire insisted, her eyes wide with the thrill of a conspiracy theorist finding a clue. Same eyes, same hair color, same grumpy expression. "I'm not grumpy," Yuta said flatly. "See, even the way you said that was grumpy." Yuta pinched the bridge of his nose. Between the media circus, the Hasaikai Hosu, and now this, I am not Aizawa-sensei's secret child. That's exactly what a secret love child would say to protect his father's underground reputation. Nijire whispered loudly, nodding to herself. It was just like the touching romance movie she watched last night. Yuta groaned. "I said I am not. Are you sure? Have you asked him?" "I'm pretty sure I'd know if. But have you asked him?" Yuta opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "No, but... See, you should ask." Nijire clapped her hands together. "Ooh, and if he is your dad, does that mean you inherited his quirk? But your quirk seems different. Can you explain how it works? Is it genetic? Or..." "Nijire-san," Yuta said, his voice taking on an edge that made even Mirio straighten slightly. "I appreciate the creativity, but I'd prefer if we didn't spread rumors about my personal life, especially ones involving my homeroom teacher." Nijire blinked, finally catching on to the shift in tone. "Oh, sorry. I didn't mean, I was just..." "It's fine," Yuta said, though his expression said it wasn't entirely fine. "Just... maybe ask about my quirk instead of my family tree, right?" "Yes, of course." Nijire nodded rapidly, her enthusiasm dimming to something more manageable. "Your quirk. Let's talk about that instead." Mirio placed a hand on Nijire's shoulder, gently steering her back a step. "Maybe we should give Akutami-kun some space, yeah? We kinda ambushed him during lunch." "Oh, yeah." Nijire deflated slightly, looking genuinely apologetic now. "Sorry. I get excited and forget to think sometimes." Yuta's expression softened marginally. "It's fine. Just been a long couple of days. Forgive her, please. She's been watching too many soap operas lately." Before the situation could escalate, Mirio made a low bow, head dipping way past his knees. "I apologize on her behalf. It's really fine. All right then. Thank you for your time, Akutami-kun. Perhaps we'll meet again soon." League of Villains Hideout noon. The television mounted on the cracked wall played the press conference on loop. Tamura Shigaraki sat on the chair, face buried in a newspaper while Kurojiri watched the news report for the third time. The unidentified individual known as White Fang is being investigated as an unlicensed combatant. Eventually, he switched it off. "Tamura?" Shigaraki didn't respond, eyes fixed on the page. "He's all they're talking about. The news report from last night's attack. All that destruction, 6 Nomu. For this, he hadn't expected much, but he had at least expected the League of Villains to be in the spotlight. Instead, it was a brat who hadn't even grown out his pubic hair that they were clamoring over. What about my Nomu?" He rasped, voice thick with irritation. This time, it was Kurojiri's turn to be silent. "I can't believe it. All of that work and we didn't even make the front page. Look at this. Hosu's student heroes. Mysterious White Fang. Endeavor's narrow escape. Where's the League of Villains?" He threw the newspaper aside. "It is not a total loss, Tamura. Endeavor's image has taken a hit, as has the image of heroes in general. We demonstrated our reach and forced the hero system to..." "We lost," Tamura interrupted, turning to face him. "Don't sugarcoat it. We lost. Again. We had one job. Kill Endeavor. Shake the public's faith. Show them heroes can fall. And instead, we made 2 new heroes famous." His gaze turned to the blank TV screen. "No one makes a fool out of me. Kurojiri. Find him," Tamura uttered. "I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what resources it requires. Find out who White Fang is. Find out where he lives. Find out everything. Him too." Tamura's hands returned to his neck, scratching with renewed vigor. I want to know everything about both of them. Schedules, weaknesses, loved ones, everything. His eyes gleamed with barely restrained madness. Nobody makes a fool of Tamura Shigaraki. Kurogiri inclined his head. As you wish. Though. Tamura's head snapped toward him. Though what? There is a development, one that might prove quite fortuitous. What? Don't tell me it's some empty benefit crap. Quite the contrary. Before Kurogiri could finish, there was a knock at the door. You can see for yourself. It's just arrived, Kurogiri said, moving toward the entrance and opening the door. Standing on the other side were 4 figures. The first was one both Shigaraki and Kurogiri were familiar with. Hey there, Tamura, Jiren greeted, cigarette between his lips. Tamura's face darkened. This guy? Don't tell me we're getting new recruits. He could see more people behind him, making his already irritable mood plummet even further. The last 2 were already a handful to deal with. A battle maniac and a drunk. If more were added, just as annoying as those 2, there was no doubt he would incinerate them on day 1. New recruits. Shigaraki's voice dropped an octave. Jiren, I told you I wanted quality, not more bottom-tier trash to fill up the graveyard. Jiren chuckled, puffing a cloud of smoke toward the ceiling. Easy there, Tamura. These aren't your typical street thugs looking for a paycheck. These are gentlemen with a common interest. Be happy. It seems they brought you a very expensive puzzle piece. He stepped aside, revealing the 3 figures standing in the dim light of the hallway. The first was a man in a crisp white lab coat, his hair styled in clock-hand points. Beside him stood a man in a dark suit with a brimmed hat casting a shadow over a bird-like mask. And finally, a small, irritable-looking figure in a small, dark puppet-like creature who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else but here. Silence followed as neither side made a sound. 5 seconds later, Shigaraki raised his hand. Kurogiri, get rid of these guys. I can already tell they're the kind of trash I hate. The third irritable figure, a puppet creature, seemed to explode. What did you just say, brat? Tamura's eyes narrowed. What the hell did you just call me? He was already in a bad mood and was on the verge of exploding. Jiren sighed immediately. Here we go again. Honestly, what's with everything annoying me today? First last night, now right now. He stood up from his chair. Oh no. Tamura. Kurogiri began, but Tamura wasn't listening. I'm sick of being irritated. Maybe I need to let off some steam. His eyes gleamed with suppressed rage. Starting with you 3. Tamura thrust his hands forward. Mimic backed away as Chronostasis shot his clock hairs forward. Nemoto pulled out his gun and fired. Bang! The gunshot resounded in the bar. Dark mist shot out from Kurogiri's palms, blocking their attack paths and redirecting their attacks. Heh, just like before. I guess I was right about how immature this one is. Jiren stood to the side unfazed. Please calm yourself, Tamura Shigaraki. Believe me that this will certainly be worth your time. Exactly, Kurono uttered, withdrawing his clock hairs from the portal. We're not here to be your recruits anyway. At least not like this. Tamura's pulled his hands out of the mist, his expression irritable behind the hand on his face. Fine then. Tell me what you're here for, then get out. Quite irritable this one is, Nemoto uttered. Tamura's eyes narrowed. You're testing my patience. Who the hell are you guys? The tall one, the leader, stepped forward without hesitation, his golden eyes locking onto Shigaraki's red ones. Kurono, he said, offering no bow and no greeting. Former second-in-command of the Shai Hasaikai. The Shai Hasaikai, Tamura hissed, his voice dripping with venom. I thought you losers were busy crying over your boss's death. Why are you in my lobby? Because we have a common plague. One that took our master and, from what I saw on the news last night, one that just took your dignity in Hosu. Shigaraki's hands reached for his neck. I'm in a bad mood today, Clockface. You say one more thing out of line, and and I'll turn you to dust. Kurono's expression didn't change. We're here to discuss cooperation. For what? Revenge on a common adversary. The white-haired vigilante. White Fang. Humph. You say that like you can even find him. None of them replied. Tamura stopped scratching. Don't tell me. You know who he is. We have a strong lead, Kurono replied. One you probably already know of. Nemoto tossed a folder over. Shigaraki caught it with narrowed eyes and opened it. True enough, the picture was a face he was familiar with. The brat. Shigaraki paused. You think he's the one? Highly likely. Currently, all our evidence points to him. And even if he isn't, we are certain he is involved, having some connection to the vigilante in some way, so yes. Shigaraki rasped. Here I thought you actually had something. Nemoto frowned. Are you calling us liars? Don't make me laugh. The reports from Hosu put them in two different places. My warp gate doesn't lie. The folder in his hand decayed into dust. What a waste of time. Discrepancies can be fabricated. Nemoto chimed in, his eyes narrowing behind his mask. I used my quirk on the boy during a train commute. I asked him if he was the one responsible for Kai Chisaki's death. He didn't answer. He physically locked his own vocal cords to prevent the truth from coming out. Innocent people don't struggle against the truth, Shigaraki. They just speak it. The statistical probability is low. Kurogiri voiced at this point. Your evidence hinges on him resisting a forced compulsion quirk. Without an actual admission, it could mean a variety of interpretations. Perhaps he reflexively resisted your power. If he could survive being deconstructed, then resisting your quirk should be no challenge. However, the facts state that it is implausible for both to be the same, as they not only look different, but the child's location is easily traced in both instances the vigilante made an appearance. Kurogiri looked at Nemoto. A resisted quirk is not a deciding factor here, which is why we're here. Since the failure at the Shinkansen, Kurono had pondered Yuta's repulsion of Nemoto's ability and had come to a defining conclusion. Just as Kurogiri said, logically speaking, it was too much of a stretch to conclude Yuta was the murderer of Overhaul based solely on Nemoto's resisted quirk. Facts were facts, and the failure to draw out a specific answer logically wasn't definite. However, it didn't matter. It had long been decided that Yuta Akutami would die regardless of who was the killer. The opposite would just mean having a second target. Both would die. However, it would be difficult to achieve on their own, leading to the current situation before them. Both are our common enemies, Kurono continued, his gaze unwavering. Whether they are the same or simply allies, it matters not. I'm sure you want his life as well. We want a joint venture. Your resources are intelligence. We capture him and find out everything he knows. If he is responsible for our leader's death, his life is up to us to kill. If the vigilante exists, we work together to end him as well. We dismantle them both piece by piece. Dismantle. Tamura repeated the word, his fingers hovering over the raw skin of his neck. He didn't care about the Hasaikai's pride. He didn't care about their master, but he cared about the stain on his own record. All right, I see what you mean, but something doesn't quite fit in all this. What's worse is I don't know why. His brows furrowed in confusion as he paced. The irritable mimic grew even more agitated. What more is there? Quiet toy. For some reason, I just feel like I'm missing something here. Isn't it obvious, Tamura? The voice came from the speaker box, startling those who weren't familiar. Shigaraki's eyes turned to the blank screen on the side. Master, not bad. To notice that, it seems you really are learning. Who is that? Kurono asked. Our master, Kurogiri replied simply. Indeed, pardon my entry. All for one's voice came from the speaker box. I'm just here to make sure my disciple learns a good lesson. Master, I don't get it. You've been paying attention to this kid, haven't you? What do you think? Is this brat really the White Fang? Or is he just another NPC? Well, I don't know. All for one replied, his tone carrying a faint, paternal amusement. While I believe it to be so, it is true that the physical evidence is overwhelmingly against the prospect. To be in two places at once is a feat that defies the nature of his known quirk. Of course, that could be explained in different ways, but they are ultimately just wild speculations. The speaker hummed for a moment. However, that depends on what perspective you look at it from. Then why do I feel like I'm missing something? Well, that's easy enough. Your confusion comes from the current situation clashing against your innate nature. Yes. In simpler terms, Tamura, you could decide to seek answers for yourself to this mystery. Track him, capture him, and extract whatever information you desire. It would certainly be interesting to see what you dig up. But the voice softened. Let me ask you, what does it matter whether he is the White Fang or not? The question hung in the air, and Tamura's hand froze mid-scratch. He stared at the blank screen, his red eyes wide and vacant as the gears in his mind ground to a halt. It is important to separate what matters from what doesn't. All for one continued. I will not interfere in your judgment or your decisions. You are a king in the making, and you are free to do whatever you desire with the pieces on your board. However, you must ask yourself whether what you invest your time in is worth the investment. Sometimes, the solutions to most problems are a lot simpler than they seem. Silence followed. Kurono and Nemoto exchanged a wary glance, confused by the shift in the room's energy. Even Jiren took a long, slow drag of his cigarette, watching the boy leader. Tamura stood perfectly still. Then, slowly, a low, raspy chuckle escaped his throat. It grew into a jagged, enlightened grin that stretched the skin of his face. Oh, I see now. He relaxed his shoulders. Now I understand why I was so confused. I was thinking about this whole thing the wrong way. Like I was trying to solve a puzzle I didn't even want to finish. Now I get it. All for one's voice carried a hint of pride. All right then. Tell me, Tamura, what exactly do you plan to do now? Tamura stopped grinning. Do now? His eyes gleamed frantically before turning to the warp gate. Kurojairi. Yes, Tamura Shigaraki? Tell me, where's this kid now? Kurojairi's brows furrowed. If he had any. The next moment, his figure was blurred in mist. When it cleared, he was long gone. Mustafu, Japan, UA High. The silence that followed Mirio and Nijire's departure was big enough to choke on. Unfortunately, it didn't last long as the vacuum left by Nijire's love child comment was slowly filled by the rhythmic clinking of cafeteria trays and the resumed whispers of the student body. Mirio had successfully wrangled the periwinkle-haired hurricane toward the exit, but the damage was done. It wasn't just his table. The surrounding 5 tables of general studies students were staring at Yuta as if he'd just been anointed by royalty. Or given Nijire's parting words, as if they were looking for a family resemblance to the scariest teacher in school. Aizawa's love child, Tanaka whispered, finally finding his voice. He looked at Yuta's tired, dark-circled eyes and then at a picture of Eraserhead on his phone. I mean, the sleep deprivation is currently a match. Drop it, Yuta groaned. I don't know, Kimura chimed in, his skin a mischievous shade of violet. The grumpy vibe is a solid 90% match. Maybe you're a clone. Kimura, if you don't stop talking, I'm going to clone my fist onto your jaw. Yuta replied without looking up. Don't mind them, Anna sighed. But hey, on the bright side, even upperclassmen recognize you now. I've seen Togata-senpai in the hallways. He's usually a lot more. Well, he's usually losing his pants, but if he's in the hero course, it means a lot coming over here just to talk to you. Yeah. Now more people are going to call you Akutami-senpai now. I'd rather they didn't. In fact, I'd rather not speak to anyone else for the rest of the day. Too late for that, senpai. Tanaka teased, nudging Kimura. Look, round 2. Yuta turned, and before he could even register a face, A pair of heavy, high-zoom goggles was centimeters from his nose. Found you. What the? Hatsum's eyes gleamed. Hello? My shiny new advertisement on legs. She was practically vibrating. A smear of grease on her cheek and a wild, predatory look in her eyes that made Yuta's fight or flight response scream flight. Hatsum, Yuta sighed, leaning back. It's been a while. Too long. Way too long. She grabbed his shoulders, ignoring the startled yelps from Tanaka and Kimura. I saw your performance in Hosu yesterday. You're practically famous now. Oh, so that's what this is about. What do you want now, Hatsum? I want to make you a baby. Half the cafeteria spat out the liquids in their mouths. Yamanote Line, 1:06 p.m. The rhythmic clack-clack of the train on the tracks was a welcome relief from the chaos of UA. With his hood over to avoid drawing attention, Yuta leaned his head against the cool glass of the window, watching the urban sprawl of Mizutofu begin to thin out into the greener outskirts leading toward Hainohara. Honestly, I'm not cut out for this. His mind replayed the day in a dizzying loop. Nijire's absurd theories, the big three, and finally, Hatsum's manic demands to create me a baby. The term baby was still ringing in his ears, along with the memory of the collective gasp from every student within a 30-foot radius of the cafeteria table. She really needs to work on her phrasing, Yuta thought, rubbing his temples. Predictably, Hatsum didn't care about her choice of words and the potential scandal she caused. The entire conversation revolved around one thing alone, the manhole cover. In her words, seeing a high-spec student using a piece of sewage infrastructure as a weapon was a personal insult to the field of engineering. Following which, she had practically forced him to sign a support request form right then and there, scribbling notes about tensile strength and material density before sprinting off toward the development studios, cackling about a masterpiece. She's going to build me something ridiculous, isn't she? He mused, leaning his head against the window. He could practically see the headline, Hosu Vigilante spotted, using pink jet-powered shield with Go Faster stripes. He shuddered at the thought. Unfortunately, that was a far-off disaster that could be managed. Meanwhile, another potential disaster was probably waiting to raise its ugly head in the next 2 days. Unfortunately, this one probably couldn't be avoided. Love child. The memory of Nijire's cheerful interrogation hadn't disappeared. If he couldn't forget it, he doubted the kids at the cafeteria would either. And in a school full of teenagers with quirks, rumors probably moved faster than Ida did on a sprint. If that reaches Aizawa-sensei, a drop of cold sweat prickled his neck. Mr. Aizawa already looked like he wanted to expel half the class on a good day. If he heard his star student being labeled as his illegitimate son, he didn't want to think about what would happen during the training sessions in 2 days. He might just expel me on the spot. Funny enough, Yuta felt it might genuinely happen as the worst-case scenario. The best case, his training might be less instructional and more punitive. His mind drifted further back, past Hatsum and Nijire, to yesterday's events. To think, it hasn't even been 2 months since the system came along. Since that ping. In the classroom, he had lived a decade's worth of trauma. Overhaul, hospitalization, the Hosu Nomu, the Shinkansen ambush, saving Ingenium, crippling the hero killer, and after yesterday, probably put his name and his alter ego on a pale-faced bastard with a hand fetish's watch list alongside a centuries-old demon lord with no eyes. And then there was the stain. Dark thoughts crossed his mind as the train approached Hainohara. Perhaps I should have killed him. It lingered until the thought of Eri's smile came to mind. It caused him to form one of his own. Ultimately, he let them go. It wasn't worth it to sully his conscience over him. Stain wasn't worth it. He would be better, live better. For them. Now, they were the only things that mattered. Just then, the train car plunged into the darkness of the Inesa tunnel. The same as usual. However, he who was looking out the window noticed the difference. The walls disappeared, and they were darker, should he say? Wait, Is the darkness moving? Yamanote Line overpass. 1:06 p.m. Moments before, the railway tracks stretched out like silver threads across the elevated overpass, cutting through Mustafu's outer districts. Below, the streets bustled with afternoon traffic, completely unaware of what was about to unfold above them. Just then, a warp gate opened in the middle of the tracks, following which several figures stepped out. I hate the sun. Shigaraki's hand twitched as he scratched his neck. Oh well, guess I'll have to make do. It's going to be a happy day after all. Beside him, Kurojiri's mist form rippled in the breeze, while Kurono, Nemoto, and Mimic stood a few paces back, watching the horizon. He should be on the 105 from Mustafu Station, Nemoto said, checking his watch. The Yamanote Line. It'll pass through here in approximately 40 seconds. And you're certain he's aboard? Kurono asked, his voice measured but tense. Certain enough, Nemoto replied. My contacts confirmed he left UA 90 minutes ago. Given his residence in Hinohara, this is the only logical route. Shigaraki didn't respond. He simply stared at the tracks, his reflection visible in the polished steel rails. Kurono studied him carefully. The boy, because that's what he was, really just a boy playing at being a king, had been eerily quiet since their conversation at the hideout. The difference in the sinister demeanor between then and now was so different, it was unsettling. Shigaraki, Kurono ventured. What exactly is the plan here? For a moment, Shigaraki didn't answer. Then, slowly, he turned his head, and Kurono saw the grin stretching beneath the pale hand covering his face. You said you wanted revenge, right? Yes. And you're willing to get your hands dirty? Kurono's eyes narrowed. We wouldn't be here if we weren't. Good. Shigaraki's grin widened. Because I'm about to show you what real revenge looks like. He turned to Kurojiri. You ready? The mist villain inclined his head. The calculations are complete, Tamura Shigaraki. However, I must advise that sustaining a portal of this magnitude will require significant concentration. I will be unable to assist with extraction should complications arise. There won't be complications, Shigaraki said simply. It's a train. It goes in a straight line. Even I can't screw that up. In the distance, a low rumble echoed through the air. There, Nemoto said, pointing. It's coming. The silver bullet of the Yamanote Line emerged from the distant cityscape, sunlight glinting off its sleek exterior as it hurtled toward them at 90 kilometers per hour. What the hell are we doing here? Don't tell me we're attacking him on another train. Mimic yelled, not understanding what they were going to do. We're not attacking him in the train, idiot. Tamura replied blandly. The train itself will do just fine. He had finally realized what was off back in the hideout. Thankfully, he had a master to guide him, to show him the way. What's the point of finding out whether the brat and the vigilante were the same person? After all, if I'm going to kill him anyway. His hands twitched. Why should I care? Kurono's breath caught. Wait, you're not seriously. Kurojiri, Shigaraki interrupted. Do it. As you wish. The air split. One moment, the tracks ahead were clear. Next, a massive swirling void of purple-black mist materialized directly across the railway, stretching from one side of the overpass to the other. It was enormous, easily 15 meters wide, tall enough to swallow the entire train. Mimic's eyes widened inside his puppet body. You've got to be kidding me. The train was seconds away now. Inside, the Haseki could imagine the scene. Passengers reading newspapers, students listening to music, and salarymen dozing after long shifts. All of them completely unaware they were about to vanish. Shigaraki, there are civilians on that train. 50, maybe more. I know, Shigaraki said, not looking away from the approaching train. Then, I don't care. Everyone was stunned, and hence, without time to register the obstacle, the train shot through the overpass, right into the warp gate. Wait, is the darkness moving? Yuta's eyes widened. Just then, the light came instantly, and the moment it did, the world tilted. The sudden absence of weight that followed frankly caught him off guard. Not just him. Everyone in the cart was startled at what happened next. What? The scream died in Yuta's throat as gravity simply ceased to exist for a heartbeat before slamming back into play in the wrong direction. The floor vanished. People who had been dozing seconds ago were launched into the air, their bodies colliding with the ceiling and the luggage racks with painful thuds. Yuta felt the air leave his lungs as he was thrown toward the side window. His instinctive reflexes kicked in before his conscious mind could even scream, channeling chakra into his feet. Whoosh! He slammed into the reinforced glass window, but instead of bouncing off, he stuck. His knees buckled, absorbing the momentum. Damn it! Not again! Yuta's eyes turned scarlet. First the train to Osaka, then the train to Hosu, and now this train. If he survived this, the HPSC might just ban him from entering public transport at this point. Through the spinning three-tomo vision, he saw the nightmare. The passengers were being tossed like dice in a cup. Luggage, clothes, magazines, suitcases, bodies, everything was flying in different directions. Wondering what villain was attacking now, he looked down for a split second and saw through the glass he stood on. The sight made his heart stop. Outside, there was no tunnel and no concrete. The scenery outside changed fast, from sky blue to a swirling purple, spinning as if they were falling from a great height, and thousands of feet beneath the tumbling train car was a vast, dark expanse he had hardly ever had the pleasure of seeing. Water! Before the thought could even finish, the carriage reached the end of its parabolic arc. The falling feeling intensified into a gut-wrenching roar of wind. The train car, isolated and severed from the rest of the line, was a silver bullet aimed at the heart of an ocean he didn't recognize. Hold on to something, Yuta roared, though he knew the unconscious or stunned passengers couldn't hear him. He lunged for a nearby seat, trying to snag a businessman who was floating toward the center of the car, but the speed of their descent was too great. Crack. The sound was akin to an explosion. The impact with the water was so violent that the reinforced glass Yuta was standing on shattered into 1,000 pieces. The silence of the sky was replaced by the deafening, freezing roar of the sea. Cold, salt-heavy water exploded into the cabin with the force of a fire hose, instantly filling the space. Beneath the waves, Yuta's Sharingan observed his surroundings. Bubbles, floating debris. He felt his lungs burn instantly from the shock of the cold. Through the murky water, he saw the sinking carriage, the trapped people, and the endless blue-black void stretching out in every direction. The answer was clear now. Some way, somehow, he had fallen into the ocean. Yamanote Line overpass. Kurono stared at the empty tracks, his mind struggling to process what he'd just witnessed. It was gone. 8 train cars, hundreds of passengers, all of it simply erased. It's done, Kurojiri said quietly, his mist form flickering slightly from the exertion. 800 kilometers offshore, deep water, no land for miles in any direction. Perfect. Behind him, Nemoto had gone very still, one hand clutching his mask. Mimic's puppet body trembled. What? Kurono's voice came out hoarse. What did you just do? Kurojiri watched, waiting for Tamura's reply. Shigaraki was scratching his neck again, but it was satisfied scratching now. Isn't it obvious? I solved our problem, he said simply, turning to face them. The grin beneath father's hand was wider than ever. See? Gone. Like he never existed. That wasn't what we discussed. Nemoto uttered coldly. We wanted to capture him. Yeah? For what? To get him trialed in a court of law. Shigaraki snickered. I prefer my plan better. You just murdered hundreds of people, Kurono said, and he was disturbed to hear how hollow his own voice sounded. What about the vigilante? White Fang? Shigaraki's grin didn't fade. What about him? Mimic struggled to find words. We came here to find out if they were the same person. To get answers. To what? Shigaraki interrupted, his tone almost conversational. You wanted revenge on whoever killed your boss. I wanted revenge on the brat who humiliated me. Now we've got it. He shrugged. If the brat was White Fang, problem solved, he'll never show up again. If he wasn't, then the other guy would show up eventually. He walked past Kurono. The latter frowned. You do know the uproar this will cause, right? Shigaraki didn't respond. And if he survives? Shigaraki paused for that, took a moment of silence, then laughed hard. 800 kilometers offshore, 1,000-foot drop, freezing water, no land, no help. He looked back at Kurono. If he survives that, his grin widened impossibly further. Then I'll actually be impressed. Maybe I'll even try harder next time. We should go, Kurojairi said quietly, already forming another portal. Even with the remote location, it will be discovered soon enough. Yeah, let's get out of here. Kurojairi opened a portal. The Hasaikai remnants watched Shigaraki step in and disappear. Dangerous, Nemoto thought. This one is far more dangerous than Kai ever was, because Kai at least had rules. This one had none. Kurono, Nemoto, and Mimic exchanged glances. They had allied themselves with a monster. They knew that now, but it was too late to back out. One by one, they followed him through. The portal snapped shut. Behind them, the afternoon sun continued to shine. Below, traffic flowed normally. A cyclist pedaled past. A couple walked hand in hand down the street. Life continued, completely unaware. On the empty tracks, a bird landed, pecked at something, then flew away. UA High School, Principal's office. Mr. Aizawa, a moment, please. Nizu's voice stopped him just before he could leave with the others. Aizawa turned back, noting that Yagi, Mike, Midnight, and Snipe had already filtered out, leaving just him and the principal in the office. Yes, Aizawa said, closing the door behind him. Nizu hopped down from his chair and moved to his desk, pulling out a folder. I wanted to discuss something with you. Something that's been on my mind regarding recent events. Aizawa approached, his expression guarded. If this is about Akutami's media exposure, I've already told him to. It's not about the media. Nizu's tone was gentle but serious. It's about the vigilante. Aizawa blinked. White Fang. Precisely. Nizu opened the folder, spreading several documents across his desk. I've been reviewing the reports, and something curious has emerged. Tell me, Aizawa, what do you think of this vigilante? Aizawa frowned, crossing his arms as he considered. I think he's skilled, very skilled. Combat capable enough to engage the hero killer twice and survive both encounters. He has some kind of enhanced mobility, possibly a teleportation quirk given the smoke descriptions in witness statements. And his motivations? That's where it gets interesting. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. Both confirmed appearances involve the hero killer. First in Hosu, where he saved Ingenium from paralysis. Then again, a week later, he prevented Stain from killing Endeavor. He paused. He's not your typical vigilante. He's not patrolling neighborhoods or stopping robberies. He's hunting Stain specifically. An astute observation. Nizu's paw traced one of the documents. And why do you think that is? Personal grudge, most likely. Stain's killed or crippled enough heroes that any number of people might want revenge. Family members, former colleagues, neighbors, childhood friends. Aizawa trailed off, something clicking in his mind. Why are you asking me this? Nizu didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slid another document across the desk. There's something I noticed. A connection that others might have missed. His dark eyes glinted. You're familiar with young Akutami's incident before the sports festival, yes? The one involving Kai Chisaki. I am. He was severely injured. required hospitalization. Indeed, Nizu tapped the document. The police reports stated that he described the hero to be a white-haired vigilante with a half-face mask. Aizawa's eyes widened. That would make White Fang's appearances not 2, but 3. And all 3 are connected by a single thread. Nizu slid another file across. This one was thicker and looked more official. Aizawa picked it up, his eyes scanning the first page. Confidential Hero Registry. Name: Aiko Akutami, nee Tanaka. Hero name: Empath. Status: retired, permanent disability. Agency: Hainohara Sentinel Hero Agency. Cause of retirement: spinal injury inflicted by serial killer, hero killer, Stain. Date of incident: 3 months prior. Akutami's mother, Aizawa started, was crippled by Stain, Nizu finished, paralyzed from the waist down. Her hero career ended in an alley in Hainohara. She's been in a wheelchair ever since. The pieces fell into place with clarity. You think, I think, Nizu interrupted gently, that it's quite the coincidence. Young Akutami's mother is attacked by Stain. 3 months later, a vigilante appears who specifically targets Stain. That same vigilante also appears to save her son from overhaul. He paused, and most tellingly, he slid one more document across. This one was a medical report from Hosu City Hospital. Aizawa scanned it, his trained eye immediately catching the relevant section. Patient: Akaguro Kaizome, hero killer, Stain. Injuries: severe spinal trauma, damage concentrated at L4, L5 vertebrae. Permanent paralysis from the waist down confirmed. Spine damage. Aizawa looked up slowly. He paralyzed Stain in the exact same place Stain paralyzed her. Eye for an eye, Nizu said softly, poetic in a terrible sort of way. But Aizawa's analytical mind pushed back against the emotional impact. That doesn't mean Akutami is the vigilante. The timing doesn't work. During both Hosu appearances, Akutami was accounted for. He was with me during the Nomu attack and at the sports festival during the first. That is correct. Logically, it is a paradox, Nizu admitted. But we live in a world of quirks. Perhaps they are related. Perhaps it is a shared quirk. Or perhaps we are wrong entirely. But this remains a substantial coincidence, a connection that could lead to a lot of trouble when discovered. We need to investigate this carefully, Aizawa said, without tipping our hand. If Akutami is connected to this vigilante, whether it's family, a friend, or something else, we need to know. For his protection and ours. Agreed. I'll begin pulling records, cross-referencing. Ring, ring, ring. Aizawa's phone buzzed in his pocket, the sharp trill cutting through the conversation. He pulled it out, glancing at the caller ID. Unknown number, but with an official prefix he recognized. Excuse me, he said to Nizu, then answered. Hello. The voice on the other end was clipped, professional, and urgent. Is this Eraserhead? This is Dispatch Unit 7. We have a situation. What kind of situation? The Yamanote line. The 105 departure from Mustafu Station your student was on. It's... The dispatcher's voice cracked slightly. It's gone. Aizawa's blood went cold. What do you mean, gone? I mean, it disappeared, mid-route, somewhere between Mustafu and the city limits. All 8 cars. Just vanished. When did this happen? Aizawa demanded, his voice sharp. We lost signal at 1:06 p.m. 13 minutes ago. Aizawa couldn't breathe. He'd sent him home. He told him to go home, to see his family. The Yamanote line was the direct route to Hainohara. What the hell happened? Meanwhile, Pacific Ocean, 800 kilometers offshore, the ocean stretched endlessly in every direction. A vast, glittering expanse of deep blue that met the sky at a distant horizon. The world was no longer a train carriage. It was a vast, terrifying roar of dark blue seas. the transition from the railways and city buildings enough to stun anyone. It was beautiful in the way that only truly hostile places could be. Beautiful and utterly empty. No land. No ships. No birds. Nothing but water and sky and the terrible silence between them. Beneath the surface, the water darkened rapidly from crystalline blue to deep azure to midnight black. The ocean floor here was over 2,000 meters down, a crushing depth where sunlight had never reached and never would. And somewhere in that darkness, still sinking, was a train full of people. But on the surface, splash, two legs landed squarely on the water surface as if on dry ground. Gasp! Yuta Akutami stood squarely on the surface of the churning water, chakra attached to the soles of his feet. He was bent double, his hands on his knees, huffing and panting as seawater dripped from his hair. His three-tomo Sharingan was spinning frantically as the weight of 3 grown human beings was over his shoulders, equally as soaked as he was. He had managed to drag them from the wreckage before the pressure of the sinking car could crush their lungs. Splash, splash, splash. 3 more figures emerged from the waves, pulling themselves up onto the surface of the water as if it were solid ground. Each one looked exactly like him, and each carried 2 to 3 people on them. Many more bodies floated on the water, pulled out before diving back for more. Is that all of them? Yuta rasped. One of the clones looked at him. On our cart? I don't know. He looked downwards. The rest? They all followed his gaze. No further words were needed. In sync, all clenched their fists, the original Yuta forcing out 3 words through gritted teeth. Damn you, Shigaraki. Mustafu Police Department. Emergency Operations Center. Detective Naomasa Tsukachi stood before a wall of monitors, his tie loosened and his expression grim as data streamed across the screens. Run it again, he ordered. The technician's fingers flew across the keyboard. A 3D model of the Yamanote line appeared, the train rendered in detail as it moved along its route at 90 kilometers per hour. Then, at timestamp 1:06 and 14 seconds p.m., the train simply ceased to exist. In one frame it was there, the next frame nothing. GPS telemetry shows all passenger devices terminating simultaneously, the technician reported. Not signal lost or out of range. Complete device failure across all registered phones. Simultaneously, Tsukachi repeated. Down to the millisecond, sir. Every single device stopped transmitting at the exact same instant. Tsukachi's brows furrowed even more. What about the train's own systems? Emergency beacons? Black box recorders. Also terminated. Whatever happened didn't just move the train, but also severed all electronic communication. Behind him, the police commissioner stepped forward. Theories. Villain attack. Warp-type quirk. Is the only way that explains something like this. Tsukachi pulled up another screen showing the blurred purple-black mist captured by a traffic camera. This matches the descriptions of the spatial distortion from the USJ incident 2 months ago. Kurogyri, the commissioner said quietly. The League of Villains. Almost certainly. Tsukachi highlighted the mist on screen. But this is orders of magnitude larger than anything we've seen before. 8 train cars, 716 people, all displaced simultaneously. Displaced where? That was the question, wasn't it? Unknown. Tsukachi brought up a map of Japan with a massive circle drawn around Mustafu. Normally, portal-based quirks have maximum range limitations. Based on previous League activity, we estimate Kurogyri's effective range at approximately 1,000 kilometers. But that gives us a search radius of 3 million square kilometers. The commissioner finished, staring at the enormous circle that encompassed not just all of Japan but vast stretches of the Pacific Ocean, the Sea of Japan, and even the Korean Peninsula and parts of China. That's impossible to search. Not without diplomatic problems. Without a doubt, it's impossible to keep this quiet now. The Inasa tunnel? Empty. Forensic teams found the tracks severed. The room fell silent. We'll probably have to ask for help, coordinating with the Coast Guard, JSDF, and international hero agencies, Tsukachi said, though even he could hear the hollow note in his voice. But without a specific location. There is no without a specific location, Neo Mesa, the commissioner said, his voice dropping to a grave mutter. If they were moved to land, we'd have thousands of witnesses. If they were moved to another city, the news would be screaming it. The fact that it's silent means they aren't on land. Tsukachi looked back at the map. The vast, blue void of the Pacific dominated the eastern half of the search radius. You think he dropped them in the ocean? The mere thought alone made many pale. That option would explain why we can't track any devices aboard. The moment those phones hit the brine, the short-circuiting would be instantaneous. If they dropped from a significant height, the impact alone would be like hitting concrete. Tsukachi added, "Bang!" The room turned to an officer who was slamming the table with his fist. Why? What in hell are these psychopaths thinking? Hosu, and now a train filled with innocent people. Have they gone mad? Detective Tsukachi sighed. That, he said while reaching for a newspaper and tossing it over, is the only thing we actually have an answer to. The officer picked it up. UA first year remarkable performance. Hero of Tomorrow saves HOSU. Those were the headlines. This kid.
Yuta Akutami, a freshman, Tsukachi explained.
He defeated 4 of the Hosu villains that attacked Hosu last night. So this is retaliation on the kid, the commissioner stated. Perhaps it's more than that, Tsukachi uttered. With Hosu failing, this must be their way of sending a message to Hero Society. Perhaps that was the main reason, and the kid being on the train just gave them a target. I see. The commissioner turned away from the screen. His face aged by a decade in the span of minutes. Contact the HPSC. Tell them to authorize a satellite sweep of the Pacific and the Sea of Japan for thermal signatures or surface debris. Get me every hero with search and rescue capabilities. Prioritize those with water-based quirks. And Neo Mesa. Sir, contact UA as well. They'll want to hear this. Pacific Ocean, 800 kilometers offshore, 1:15 p.m. 4 identical figures stood on the undulating surface of the Pacific, their feet flickering with chakra. Each one bore the weight of 3 to 4 unconscious passengers draped across their shoulders and backs. Damn it, Yuta thought. The train had sunk. Diving down again would either be suicide or a waste of chakra. Even now, there were dozens of bodies floating on the surface they had carried out from their train cart. 57 in total. Yet, it probably wasn't even a tenth of the number of passengers. All right, Yuta, think. He swept his gaze over the water. All he could see was miles of ocean water. No land in sight. I have no idea where I am, nor any way to get help. He looked up. No birds in the sky either. That probably means I'm quite far off from land. If I'm unlucky, I'm probably not even in Japan anymore. He lowered his gaze back to the water. Ha! A black shadow shooting out of the water appeared in his eyes. Move! The water exploded. A massive, jagged sheet of reinforced metal, part of the carriage roof, shot out from the depths like a breaching whale, propelled by trapped air from below. It skipped across the surface, nearly taking off the head of one of the clones before coming to a halt 10 meters away. Yuta and his clones leaped instinctively, their feet splashing as they repositioned themselves on the churning water. What in the... Their eyes fell on the metal slab. It wasn't the only thing as more pieces of debris floated to the surface. The silence of the Pacific was broken only by the rhythmic slap-slap of waves against Yuta's feet. Change of plans. Yuta turned to his clones. Stop treading water. Get everyone to that panel. Then gather every piece of debris and bring them over. As an anime fan, Yuta hadn't watched any survival in the wild videos before transmigration. However, anyone who had watched the Titanic knew that being soaked in seawater would lead to hypothermia. It was currently daytime, and the water was already this cold. In a few hours, these people would freeze to death. He waded over to the floating roof panel and slid the 3 people off his back onto the flat metal. His clones followed suit, unloading their passengers until the steel slab sat low in the water, nearly submerged under the weight. Check the other debris. Anything that floats, bring it. He turned his attention back to the metal beneath his feet. Kneeling down, he pressed his palm against the surface and activated his quirk. A kanji symbol appeared on the metal, taking a considerable toll on his chakra. Next to the main panel, a jagged interior door floated by. Yuta reached out, marking it as it passed. With a slight tug of his will, it snapped toward the larger panel. He guided the pieces until they overlapped, then used his quirk to tear apart and force the metal to pin together, essentially stapling the 2 pieces of steel using their own mass. The idea was simple: make a floating island of debris. What followed was exhausting. Every time he fused a new piece of debris, a seat frame, a luggage rack, a section of wall, he felt the drain on his chakra reserves. Eventually, he had to disperse 2 of the 3 clones to keep going. If not for everything that's happened, he thought, my chakra should be way more than this if I just had the time to train. He turned to the last clone. Put them in the center, Yuta said, wiping salt from his eyes. Stack the cushions. We need to get the most injured ones off the bare metal. 2 minutes later, everyone was on board. Yuta let out a breath at the sight of 57 people huddled on his makeshift raft. They were shivering, their skin turning a pale, sickly gray. As he feared, hypothermia was catching up with them. Worse still, the clouds were beginning to darken. The shadow clone came to Yuta, a frown on its face. What happens now? Now? Yuta took a look at the changing weather and mirrored the frown. I need to go get help. 2 minutes later, the raft was as stable as it was going to get. Yuta stood at the edge, looking down at the unconscious survivors. 57 people were huddled on his makeshift raft. They were shivering, their skin turning a pale, sickly gray. Some weren't even moving at all. He couldn't tell which was which anymore. His Sharingan was deactivated to conserve chakra, and his hands were shaking too badly to check pulses properly. Worse still, the clouds were beginning to darken. The shadow clone came to Yuta, a frown on its face. What happens now? Now? Yuta took a look at the changing weather and mirrored the frown. I need to go get help. The answer was as clear as day. He needed to leave. Yuta was clear that all his previous actions were nothing more than giving these people a fighting chance. From saving them from the train to building the raft, all of it would be for naught if they couldn't get out of the ocean in time. It was unknown how far away from land they were, but it was definitely not close. Hauling the passengers for God knows how long across the ocean wasn't possible. In such a scenario, he would die of chakra exhaustion before they died from the cold. No food, no water, no shelter, no way to signal for help, and a limited time frame to find it. The very definition of the term nightmare mode. Unless he could unleash the Susanoo right here and now, there was no dramatic comeback waiting around the corner. Their only hope was to find help. A large enough fishing boat, an operational oil rig, or even a coast guard, preferably in the next 3 to 4 hours. There's no other way. If I stay, they die. The thought felt bitter. The last remaining clone nodded, then moved to a corner and slumped against a piece of debris to conserve its energy. The clone can't hold much longer. Maybe 3 more hours before it dissipates on its own. His eyes swept the horizon one more time. Still nothing. I need to move. Now. Hey me, Yuta called. It looked up. You're staying with them. Keep them on the raft. If anyone wakes up, keep them calm. He paused. If you spot a ship or plane, signal them however you can. The clone nodded slowly. And you? I'm finding help. Or land. Whichever comes first. If you don't make it back, then you do what you can until you run out of chakra. It was all he could do. All anyone could do, actually. Yuta took one last look at the raft and the people he'd pulled from the water, at the makeshift construction that might keep them alive for a few more hours if they were lucky. Then he turned east and started running. His feet touched the water in perfect rhythm, each step sending ripples across the endless blue. The Sharingan activated again despite the chakra cost. He needed it to navigate, to spot any signs of rescue, to keep moving in a straight line. Behind him, the raft grew smaller, until finally it was gone. He was alone now. Just him, the ocean, and 600+ corpses he couldn't save.
I'm sorry, Kropka.
He didn't know if he was apologizing for dying or for what he was about to do. Both, probably. He kept running. 6 hours later, Pacific Ocean, 9:47 p.m. Yuta's legs were leaden. His chakra was nigh empty, and the Sharingan had deactivated an hour ago. He was running on Uzumaki stamina alone now, and even that had limits. The sun had long set at this point. The ocean was black, with clouds covering the night sky. The cold air had condensed into frigid mist. Result? He couldn't see anything beyond 10 meters. How far have I gone? 100 kilometers? 200? He had no idea. There were no landmarks or reference points, nor had he come across a single ship during his run. All that followed was darkness, water, and the sound of his own breathing. How long has it been? His chest heaved rapidly. 5? 6 maybe. The clone dispersed 4 hours ago. The unwelcome memory had hit him mid-run. The raft was slowly taking on water as the makeshift bindings loosened. The temperature dropped as the sun set. The survivors, those still breathing, were shivering uncontrollably, their lips turning blue. Then one by one they'd stopped moving. The clone had tried, had checked pulses, had attempted to keep them warm by huddling bodies together, had screamed uselessly at the empty sky. By the time its chakra ran out, there were 12 still breathing. 12 out of 57. And that was 4 hours ago. Yuta's jaw clenched. They were without a doubt dead now. All of them. Hypothermia wouldn't wait. 12 survivors who'd lasted just long enough to give him hope, then died alone on a raft in the middle of nowhere. 697 dead. That was the new count. I tried. I did everything I could. The words rang hollow even in his own mind as he moved forward. His running had reduced to walking. It wasn't enough. It's never enough. Each step felt heavy to take forward. His foot caught, chakra control slipping for a split second, and he stumbled, nearly face-planting into the water before catching himself. Damn useless chakra capacity. Damn it. He had 2 months. 2 months since he got his powers, and this was the best he could do. He had barely developed his jutsu, hardly trained, and had only gotten into one mess after another and attended classes for studying hero laws. At the end of the day, it was all useless when it mattered the most. Because of him, hundreds had died, and he could do nothing but attempt to save them and fail miserably while at it. First Overhaul, then the Hasaikai, now the League. If only I had more time. His teeth gnashed with hatred. He hated the villains more than he hated himself right now. The exhaustion seeped into his bones, but he forced himself to keep moving. His thoughts were simple. If I stop, I drown. If I drown, this was all for nothing. But even as he forced his legs to keep moving, a darker thought crept in. Was it for nothing anyway? 57 people on that raft. Probably all dead now. Would it have been different if I'd stayed? Or would I have just died with them? He didn't know, nor did he want to. Just then, thunder crackled across the sky. Yuta's head snapped up. The clouds above, already dark and oppressive, had turned into something worse.
No.
No, you can't be serious. The answer from the sky was another crack of thunder loud enough to make his ears ring. Then a single, cold drop hit his forehead. Then another. Then, as if a dam had burst in the heavens, the sky opened up. Within seconds, the drizzle became a downpour as rain hammered down like bullets. The ocean surface, already choppy, transformed into a churning mess of waves. Visibility dropped from 10 meters to barely 3. Yuta stood there, soaked to the bone, staring up at the sky with something between disbelief and raw fury. "You've got to be kidding me," he rasped. The rain intensified, as if in response. His clothes, already waterlogged from 6 hours of running on the ocean, became impossibly heavier. His hair was plastered to his skull. Water streamed down his face. What had been gentle swells of seawater became highly aggressive. A particularly large wave hit him from the side, nearly knocking him off balance. His chakra control, teetering due to his limited chakra supply, finally showed the first crack. His foot sank below the surface before he caught himself, forced more chakra to his feet, and resumed his stumbling walk. Of course this happens now, he thought, finding the energy to pick up the pace. If he fell here, no one would find his body. No one would even know he tried. The next few minutes were filled with hopelessness and despair as the water turned against him in every direction. He had to maneuver multiple times to avoid getting submerged under the rampant waves. However, nothing could last forever as his chakra finally gave out. Finally, he was hit by a wave larger than the last and submerged into the ocean. Damn you, nature. Japan? Coordinated Search Operations. Day 1. Pacific Ocean, 200 kilometers east of Tokyo, 2:37 p.m. Hawks soared above the churning ocean, hundreds of feathers spread out in a search grid pattern that covered nearly 5 square kilometers. His eyes, enhanced by years of training, scanned the water below for any sign of wreckage, survivors, bodies, anything. "Hawks to command," he spoke into his headset. "Sector 7 Delta clear. No visual contacts. Moving to 7 Echo. Copy that, Hawks. Be advised. A weather system is moving in from the east. ETA, 40 minutes. Acknowledged." He banked left, feathers adjusting formation automatically, and continued the search. Below him, the ocean stretched endlessly. Beautiful, deadly, indifferent. 716 people. Just gone. How the hell do you make a train disappear? Hawks soared above the churning ocean, hundreds of feathers spread out in a search grid pattern that covered nearly 5 square kilometers. His eyes, enhanced by years of training, scanned the water below for any sign of wreckage, survivors, bodies, anything. "Hawks to command," he spoke into his headset. "Sector 7 Delta clear. No visual contacts. Moving to 7 Echo. Copy that, Hawks. Be advised. A weather system is moving in from the east. ETA, 40 minutes. Acknowledged. He banked left, feathers adjusting formation automatically, and continued the search. Below him, the ocean stretched endlessly. And here I was looking forward to a quiet rest of the day. Hawks thought as he soared above it all. It had been nearly 2 hours since he was informed of the incident from his agency in Kyoto. His intern, Tsukiyumi, had been left behind abruptly mid-lesson as a result. "I'll have to make it up to him when I return." Still, he ran a hand through his hair at the thought of the summon he received. "I never expected that villains could get so much bolder in their actions. It hasn't even been a full day since Hosu and they pull this," he thought with a grimace. The wind was picking up, the smell of seawater assaulting him from farther north. How unfortunate. It's unlikely, but we can only hope the worst hasn't happened yet. 716 people. Just gone. His feathers vibrated slightly, a detection pattern he'd trained them to recognize. Something below the surface. He dove closer. Just a school of fish, disturbed by his shadow. Hawks pulled back up, frustration building. Hawks to command. Still nothing. How are the other sectors? Negative contacts across all zones. Endeavor's team is covering the northern arc. Ryukyu has the western quadrant. No one's found anything yet. What about the Coast Guard? They're deploying deep water sonar, but the search radius is... It's massive, Hawks. Even with every available resource, we're looking at weeks to cover everything thoroughly. Hawks gritted his teeth. These people don't have weeks. We know. Just keep searching. We have 40 minutes until the weather shuts us down. He adjusted his flight path, pushing his feathers to maximum spread. The storm clouds on the horizon were getting closer and darker. 40 minutes till the weather hits. Huh? Let's hope we find something. Anything. Sea of Japan. 180 kilometers west of Mustafu. Selkie stood on the bridge of the Oki Mariner, binoculars pressed to his seal-like face as his ship cut through increasingly rough waters. Behind him, Azui Tsuyu stood at attention in her hero costume, her large eyes fixed on the ocean through the bridge windows. She'd been silent since they'd received the emergency summons 3 hours ago. "Captain," the ship's navigator called out. "Storm front approaching faster than predicted. We need to turn back in the next 20 minutes or risk getting caught in it." "Not yet." Selkie shook his head. "We haven't covered half our assigned sector." One of his men couldn't help but add, "Sir, with respect, if we get caught in that storm." "I know the risks, Lieutenant." Selkie lowered his binoculars. "But there are 716 people out here somewhere. I'm not abandoning them because of bad weather." The navigator hesitated, glancing at Tsuyu. "Sir, we have a student aboard. If the weather deteriorates..." "I'm fine, Ribbit," Tsuyu cut in quickly. "I mean, with all due respect, sir, if there's any chance someone's still alive out there." Selkie turned to look at her, his expression softening slightly. "Froppy, I need you to understand something." He looked forward. "We're not sure what exactly we're out here searching for. The best-case scenario is the train was never out here to begin with, and we all go home lighter in our chests. If not, then we're not looking for survivors anymore. At this point, we're looking for bodies, for closure. Can you handle that?" Tsuyu swallowed. The thought was terrifying to imagine. However, there was no way she would back out. Hence, she nodded. "Yes, sir." "Good. Then keep your eyes on the water. Your vision's better than most of the crews. If you see anything, debris, clothing, anything, you sing out immediately." "Understood." "Understood." Ribbit. Selkie returned to scanning the water. Around him, crew members did the same, eyes straining against the glare and the growing chop of the waves. Minutes passed. The wind picked up. The sky darkened. "Contact!" someone shouted from the bow. Starboard side. 200 meters. Selkie's head snapped around. "All stop. Azui, with me." They rushed to the starboard rail. Through his binoculars, Selkie could see something floating dark, irregular, bobbing in the waves. "Launching rescue skiff." The navigator called. "Belay that," Selkie said. "I'll retrieve it myself." "Faster." He turned to Tsuyu. "Stay here. Watch and learn." Before she could respond, he dove over the rail, his body streamlining as he hit the water and shot toward the object with powerful strokes. Tsuyu watched from the rail, her heart pounding. "Please be alive. Please be someone we can save." Selkie reached the object, grabbed it, and held it up. Even from the ship, Tsuyu could see what it was. A life jacket. Empty. Her shoulders slumped. Selkie swam back, climbed aboard, water streaming from his fur. He held the life jacket out to one of the crew. "Log it. Check for serial numbers." "Yes, sir." The crew member examined it. Serial number doesn't match standard issue from Yamanote line cars. This wasn't from the train. Azui didn't know whether to be regretful that they had no clues to the train or happy that they didn't. Selkie let out a breath. He looked out at the endless ocean, then up at the storm clouds. "How long until that hits?" 15 minutes, sir. Maybe less. Then we've got 15 minutes. He turned to the bridge crew. "Full ahead. Continue the search pattern until I give the order to turn back." "Sir, that's an order." The Oki Mariner surged forward, cutting through the increasingly rough seas. Tsuyu stood at the rail, her large eyes scanning the water, searching for something, anything. That might be a person instead of just debris. But the ocean remained empty. Beside her, Selkie put a hand on her shoulder. "This is part of the job too, Froppy. Sometimes we search and we don't find what we're hoping for. But we search anyway, because giving up means accepting they're gone. And we never accept that until there's absolutely no other choice. Ribbit, Suyu acknowledged, her voice thick. How long do we keep searching? Until the weather makes it impossible. Then we come back tomorrow and search again. Aerial search, coastal regions, 4:15 p.m. Ryukyu flew low over the coastline in her dragon form, her massive wings generating downdrafts that rippled the water below. Behind her, 3 of her agency's sidekicks flew in formation, each covering a different altitude and search pattern. Ryukyu to Coordination Center, she spoke into her headset, her voice carrying over the wind. Coastal sectors 12 through 18 complete. No debris or survivors spotted. Understood. Proceed to sectors 19 through 22, then return to base. The weather's deteriorating fast. Copy that. She banked right, following the rocky coastline. Below, fishing villages dotted the shore. If anyone made it to shore, someone would have seen them by now. Called it in. This far into the search, silence means. She didn't finish the thought. Ryukyu-san, one of her sidekicks called. I've got something. Small island, uninhabited. It looks like disturbed sand on the beach. Ryukyu descended immediately, landing on the rocky shore. The disturbed sand was just that, drag marks, like something heavy had been pulled up the beach. But the marks were old and weathered. Days, maybe weeks. Driftwood, one of her sidekicks said, pointing to a large log further up the beach. It probably washed up during the last storm, and someone dragged it higher. Ryukyu nodded, frustration building. Mark it as searched and move on. As she took off again, the first drops of rain began to fall. Tokyo, HPSC headquarters, 6 p.m. Inside the war room, the atmosphere was far from peaceful. A holographic map of the Pacific was partitioned into hundreds of red zones. The Coast Guard has committed 40 vessels. The JSDF has authorized 3 satellite sweeps. An analyst reported to the HPSC chairwoman. But there's no results so far. The satellite sweeps aren't picking anything up. Thermal imaging has come out empty. Worse, a storm is approaching. All dispatched hero units are being forced to retreat. We might be overreacting. How bold can these villains be to drown so many people? Said villains attacked Hosu less than 24 hours ago. This is bad. 2 villain attacks at such a scale in less than a day. The boldest move isn't the drowning. The HPSC chairwoman didn't look up from the data tablets spread across her desk. It's the scale of the abduction. To pluck 8 train cars. That is a declaration of war. If we find nothing, the public's faith in the safety part of our name vanishes by morning. Ma'am, the analyst continued, tapping a screen to bring up a live feed of the darkening Pacific. The radar clutter from the storm is now at 85%. Satellite radar can no longer distinguish between debris and 5-meter swells. We are effectively blind. Many sighed. That calls it. The search operation was officially a failure. Now the more troublesome problem needed to be dealt with. We need to prepare an official statement. Isn't this a bit too soon? What should we even tell them? I agree. Perhaps new information will be brought to light in the following hours. We don't have that time, the chairwoman replied, her eyes fixed on the map. The public is starting to notice the transit delays. We can't keep the Yamanote line's absence a secret for more than another hour. Draft the statement. Focus on the unprecedented villain attack. Do not, under any circumstances, mention the UA student or the targeted nature of the strike. We cannot let the public think the League can pluck specific citizens out of thin air.
And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going. Plus, it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.